Okay, give me just a minute. We have some audio going on.
Modesto, can you hear us here in the Fresno?
Modesto can hear you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll call Mr. Kisa.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mr. Couch.
Here.
Ms. Escutia Braden.
I'm here. Hello.
Good morning. Ms. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. McCauley. Mr. Mendez.
Here.
Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Here.
Mr. Pereira. Mr. Reyna. Mr. Rodriguez.
Here.
Mr. Rickman. Mr. Robinson. Dr. Sheriffs.
Welcome back.
Ms. Nguyen. Here. Ms. Shuklian.
Here.
Through the chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Our next item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will ask Ms. Lewis to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 4 is approval of the consent calendar. These are items 18 through 25. These items are routine in nature and are usually approved by a single vote. Prior to action by the board, the public will be given the opportunity to comment on any consent item. Do we have any public comment?
Are there any public comments in Bakersfield on the consent item?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments on the consent calendar?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on consent? Seeing none and no indication of online comments.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion. Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Mendez and a second by Dr. Sheriffs. Roll call, please.
Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Ms. Escutia Brayton,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Yes.
Let me see, Mr. Reyna, sorry, Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs,
Yes.
Ms. Nguyen,
Yes.
Ms. Shuklian.
Aye.
To the chair, motion passes.
All right. Public comment. This time is made available for comments from the public on matters within the board's jurisdiction. It is requested that no comments be made during this period on agenda items 8 through 13. The public may make comments on these agenda items during the time allowed for public comment on those items. Attention is called to the fact that the board is prohibited by law from taking action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Do we have anybody who would like to speak for public comment?
Bakersfield, do you have any public comment?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comment?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in Fresno? I do have one coming up to the podium.
I think it's on. Oh, there it is. Manuel Cunha, President, Nisei Farmers League. I'd like to make a quick comment on the July California Resources Board hearing at the end of the month in Sacramento, California. And it was to talk about the 3 air districts trying to approve their SIPs with the black box, Coachella, South Coast, and the San Joaquin Valley. During that discussion, a lot came about from all board members, but the public, of saying that agriculture hadn't really contributed anything to clean air. And Dr. Cliff corrected a few comments, but agriculture has done a lot. And Roger Isom is preparing a document that will show everything we did since 1997, 96 with this air district with agriculture to the latest regulations. But I think the important part of all of this, and I think for Dr. Pacheco Warner, who is our representative, and the staff at ARB, is that agriculture is going to continue to do what it has to do to clean up the air. There's no No doubt about that. We're going to do our part, even no matter whatever happens of our industry, even with the waivers. Yes, we will support those waivers of stopping them on my industry with everything we have to, because farmers cannot afford to go buy. But the ag industry is willing to work, even with the chair and with the board, and definitely with this district. And we want to make sure, but what was said at that hearing was absolutely terrible about my industry. The industry that feeds the world and the industry that has the tractor program, no burn program out of all the places in the country. And the ag ice engine replacement. California, we did the CMP. So we did a lot of great things to help clean up the air. So Dr. Pacheco Warner, we are looking forward to see if we can make things happen and try to move us in a better direction than what that board has proposed to do to my industry. And that was to regulate farm tractors 100%, which is not going to happen. It just cannot happen. It's just not there. And I want to thank this board and Samir and his entire team and Mark for the guys working in Sacramento to get tractor funding, the farmer funding, and the ag burn funding. So again, Samir, thank you for all the hard work and this board's support. So again, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cunha.
Are there any other members in the central office that would like to make a public comment? Seeing none, we do have one online, Connie Young.
Morning, Connie.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
It's good to be here. I'm Connie Young, Fresno resident, retired registered nurse, and volunteer with Citizens Climate Lobby, also known as CCL. This week, California CCL members, and I hope you, are lobbying for 3 pieces of state legislation that promote clean energy. This week or next, the California legislature will vote on the Heat Pump Access Act, SB 222. It cuts red tape and streamlines local permitting for home heat pumps, driving down installation costs. Speaking of electric heat pumps, they have outsold gas furnaces in the US since 2022, and they're now on track to overtake conventional air conditioners this year as well, after a near tie last year. Notably, heat pumps, unlike air conditioners, are a fully reversible energy transfer system, so they can warm homes in the winter as well as cool them in the summer. A recent study found that modern electric heat pumps substantially outperform fossil fuel burning boilers and furnaces, even in cold temperatures. Another piece of legislation that will be voted on is the Home Energy Choice Act, AB 2313. It gives homeowners the option to upgrade to clean electric appliances instead of replacing aging gas lines. It gives homeowners a choice when their gas pipe is up for renewal every 50 years. They can opt out of gas service and use the avoided pipeline funds to buy electric equipment like heat pumps and induction stoves. Switching to electric appliances cuts indoor gas pollution and lowers safety risks tied to gas leaks. Last but not least is the Plug and Play Solar Act, SB 868. It expands clean energy access to millions of Californians by clearing the way for affordable, portable, quote, balcony, unquote, solar power that directly lowers monthly electric bills. It allows residents, including renters and apartment dwellers, to plug small portable solar systems directly into a standard wall outlet to lower electric bills without utility company red tape. It caps the AC output at 1,200 watts, which is enough to run basic appliances like refrigerators, Wi-Fi routers, and small air conditioners. It includes safety features to protect utility workers. Please support this legislation. More clean energy will mean cleaner air. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
There's no other online comments.
Right. We will now move on to item 8, which is always a pleasure, and that is our star recognition years of service milestones.
It is. Good morning,
morning.
Chair, members of the board, Adriana Milovich, Director of HR. It is a pleasure to be here this morning and an honor to be able to present the following item before you. As you are aware, an essential component of the district star culture is ensuring to recognize our employees' contributions. So in keeping with this light, and the commitment, we are proud to formally recognize and show our appreciation to the individuals who have reached a service milestone in the second quarter of 2026. To each of our employees being recognized, we appreciate your contributions. Thank you so much for all of your commitment and your service to the district over the years. We appreciate you being here this morning. With that, starting in Fresno with 5 years of service, Sage Davis, Senior Air Quality Inspector. Justin Downs, Senior Air Quality Inspector. Marissa Gomez, Programmer Analyst. Bush Lamb, Air Quality Inspector. Annalisa Sanfilippo, Air Quality Specialist. And moving to Bakersfield, we're going to start with continuing 5 years of service, Entor Pineda, Air Quality Engineer. Good morning.
Good morning,
And Karen-
Bakersfield.
Good morning. And Karen Russell, Air Quality Inspector. Staying in Bakersfield for 10 years of service, we have Dave Bourne, Supervising Air Quality Inspector. And can we see it? Stephanie Stark, or you are Supervising Air Quality Inspector. Good morning. All right, coming back to Fresno for 10 years of service, James Lee, Supervising Network Systems Analyst. And moving to 15 years of service, we have Brad Dawson, Supervising Air Quality Instrument Specialist. And 20 years of service, Stephanie Hitchman, Senior Air Quality Specialist. Chris Scott, Air Quality Specialist. Sing Lee, Senior Programmer Analyst. David McDonough, Air Quality Specialist. Kevin Wing, Senior Air Quality Specialist. Nia Vu, Supervising Air Quality Specialist. Yu Vu, Air Quality Specialist. And moving to Modesto, continuing with 20 years of service, we have Adam Mumford, Supervising Air Quality Inspector. Good morning, Adam. And next to Adam, with 25 years of service, we have Lori Sheridan, Air Quality Inspector. And lastly, for 25 years of service, continuing, we have Morgan Lambert, Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer. And that concludes everyone. Please join me in congratulating these employees and their safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Vito, did you add that up or? Okay, I was writing it down. I just didn't get there. Thank you all very much for all the work that you do that keeps the Air Board running, so to say. And it's just always so impressive how many years of service, you know, our county at one point, more than half, you know, we're 5,000 employees and more than half of our employees had less than 5 years just a few years ago. So kudos to all of you for sticking in there. And to also our admin staff. Thank you very much. Okay, our next item is a report on the district citizens advisory activities. I don't know why you sit way back in the corner, unless it's your you exercise. That's your get all your steps in. Good morning, Manuel.
Good morning, Chair, Board and staff. Before you in your packet is the CAC report. And I know you got a pretty good sized agenda today, so I'll make it quick. Shiraz gave the report for the district on the from the executive side. And the one that I again want to compliment Dr. Pacheco Warner for the staff that have prepared the document every month now on things going on at CARB. And it's a pretty comprehensive presentation, well done. I think our CAC members in all three locations really appreciate that document. It gives us what you're talking about and what's happening. So again, major items. Again, at that meeting, the major item of that was the CARB board hearing. And we spent quite a bit of time on that item of what happened and what took place. And then the chair of that CAC is going to be forwarding a letter to the head of CARB and describing some of our concerns. The next was to receive the Clean Drive Cleanup Program. And again, there is no other great program as the Clean Car Program, the Tune-Up Program that this district has really put together. And I think I commend Samir, your entire team, and Todd and everybody. It's just tremendous to see that. And I think one thing, board, I will say, this staff really knows how to respect people of all ages and all groups and how they bring their materials. If it's in a grocery bag, they lay it out, they walk through it with them. They don't belittle anybody, and everybody's treated with the greatest and most respect. So, Samir, what a thing that you need to bottle that and get it to Sacramento, and maybe even to the legislature. Mark, maybe you need to get some points from them. Verbal report on the Clean Air Act, where we're at with the SIPs and all of that. The Assembly Bill 617 on the EJAG community areas. Great job the staff has done. And so the staff did their presentation on each of the SERPs and all of that, as well as the ARB presentation. The other item was outreach and communication by Jamie Holt, all of the different things dealing with the wildfires, how to deal with it, and all of the high-tech availability there is to find out how and where smoke is and where you should be at, and all of those great. So Jamie Holt and her team did a great job on the presentation. So if there's any questions, Madam Chair, I'll be happy to answer. If not, I will sit down and behave.
I don't know about that, but all right. Thank you, Manuel. Any questions? Okay, we will move on to our next action item, which is to accept and appropriate the $7,465,741 in additional funds from the California Energy Commission for depot charging infrastructure for medium and heavy duty on-road zero emission vehicles. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to introduce Aaron Tarango, Grants Program Manager, who is one of a great team that is always looking for new funding opportunities to bring to the region. So we're excited to this morning present one of those opportunities that we were successfully able to compete for. So with that, Aaron, take it away.
Well, thank you very much. That's a mouthful, right? To say all that.
I said it for you, Aaron.
I might truncate that as we speak about it here. Let's see, it's the first slide here. Okay. So mobile sources account for the majority of the valley ozone, PM 2.5 forming NOx, and toxic diesel emissions. As cleaner vehicle technologies continue to advance, the need for reliable fueling and charging infrastructure across the valley continues to grow. Incentive programs play a vital role in helping fleets overcome financial barriers, reduce risk, and move forward with investments in cleaner vehicles. Your board has long advocated for developing, demonstrating, and deploying cleanest feasible technologies. With that, on March 19th of this year, 2026, the district submitted a proposal to the California Energy Commission in response to their highly competitive, we'll say it slowly here, depot charging and hydrogen fueling infrastructure for medium heavy duty on-road zero emission vehicles solicitation. That's a long title there. So in that, the district proposed to develop two state-of-the-art electric vehicle fueling charging hubs, one in Stockton and one in Bakersfield. The proposal included two project partners. One was Momentum, who is a project administrator who we have a history with, and Renewable Properties to develop the hubs in Stockton and Bakersfield. And we'll talk about those two partners in a bit here. So and then going forward, a couple months later on June 29th, CEC informed the district that we were awarded our full funding amount, which is just over $7.4 million in funding for the project. Included in that is just over $6.5 million for the cost of the project itself, just under $900,000 for program administration for us and Momentum, and then which brings the total cost to just over about $10 million for the total project. In that, Renewable Properties is matching with $2.5 million, or just over $2.5 million in the total project there. So the total cost does not include any project match funds from the district. The two depots are designed to accommodate extended dwell and overnight charging for fleets that cannot meet all charging needs at the primary depot facility, whether due to insufficient depot capacity, grid constraints, or their home base, or vehicles operating far from their domicile location. The new depots are targeted to reach initial operation in the second quarter of 2028. When completed, the two sites are expected to charge approximately 220 vehicles per day. So we'll go to the primary project partner, which is Renewable Properties. They will be responsible for the majority of the project deliverables, including site design, engineering, procurement, infrastructure development, site construction, and ongoing operations and maintenance. Renewable Properties is a vertical integrated developer, owner, and operator of distributed generation, energy storage, and fleet electrification infrastructure, including development, ownership, and operation of commercial EV charging infrastructure. Renewable Properties current charging portfolio comprises 10 sites totaling more than 55 megawatts of active development across multiple major metropolitan areas, supported by over 250 megawatts of utility interconnection nationwide. This will be the first project they have in the valley, which is a great thing. Next, our project administrator, Momentum. Momentum delivers strategic planning and fund development, project management, and communication services to clients working on advanced energy, transportation, and manufacturing projects. Momentum has served as a long-standing grant administrator partner to the district on active CEC agreements, providing direct evidence of their capabilities in delivering tracking, timely issue resolution, partner and vendor coordination, and invoicing documentation. To further strengthen project success and local benefits, Momentum will leverage the OK Produce, Lean Green, Produce Machine, workforce development, and tech transfer where appropriate to support this project. So they have a history of doing this. So they're going to help us carry this project along here. They will emphasize electric vehicle supply equipment maintenance to support long-term station uptime. And they will focus on hiring local contractors to maintain the site once they're operational. So here's a kind of a map showing where it's located at. The first one will start in Stockton. This is on 635 Aurora Street South. And what it basically is, it's between 99 and I-5, just south of State Route 4 in Stockton there. And I'll go just, it's in the middle of the hub of the city there. I'll go to one more slide here to kind of show you the more drawn out version where it's at, where it's going to be located at, on that site right there, just kind of by the train tracks there in Stockton. Let's see here. So the current phase, which this grant's paying for, is going to pay for 10 single port fast chargers for heavy duty vehicles. The future phase, which they're intending to do, will add 12 fast chargers and 26 level 2 chargers. So in combined, they'll have 48 charging stalls for medium, heavy, and light duty vehicles at this hub. That's the goal as it gets built out. Next, we'll go to the Bakersfield location. So this one's on 5920 State Road in Bakersfield, just based on 99 and Olive. It's kind of been the major cross streets in Bakersfield down there. And we'll go down a little deeper here, the next slide here, show you kind of more located at where it's at there. Gives more indication what's going on there. So the current phase, which is this grant's paying for, it'll start with 4 DC fast chargers at this location. The future phase, which they intend to do, will add 18 fast chargers and 26 level 2 chargers. Essentially, you have the same hub as Stockton, 48 total chargers all combined all together. As it takes time to build out, as you get more energy to the site, PG&E starts developing sites. So it's going to take a while to build it out, but they'll start small and build from there on the next phases of it. Next is the project budget. We've discussed a little bit already in previous slides, but essentially the grant was for just over $7.4 million. Of that, just over 6.5 is for project equipment costs, procurement, engineering, design, permitting, installation, and operation costs. Like I mentioned before, our renewable properties will match with just over $2.5 million to manage all project activities, purchase, install, operate the charging sites. Momentum, one of our project partners, will receive up to $300,000 for grant administration, invoicing, and reporting. And the district will receive just under $600,000 in project administration grant management. With that, here's the recommendations before you, and I'm happy to answer your question about the project.
Do we have any questions for Aaron? Yes. Councilmember Escutia Bratton.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. Thank you for the presentation. So the title, the convoluted multiple word title includes hydrogen refueling. So I didn't hear in your presentation that hydrogen was part of that as an option. Did I not hear correctly or?
No, that is correct. What the solicitation allowed you to do was to apply for either or, hydrogen or electric, or combine them. With the project that we had, with the partners we had, we went all electric. We didn't do hydrogen in this proposal.
Oh, I see. And what was the reason?
Just for fact we could pull it off, we could get it done, because hydrogen's still emerging of how it can be done right now and the technology there. We're still working with current project partners on that itself. So this is more upfront and get ready to go sooner, basically kind of a sooner process.
Maybe I could add a little bit through the chair on that
Absolutely,
too.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, these types of projects, while we clearly would love to see, hydrogen, electric and other fuels everywhere all the time. I think what happens with these open solicitations is we often will hear from folks that are developing these projects on the ground, based on real considerations, right? The economics, technology, site considerations, right? So when the partners came to us and said, hey, we've got these projects that we'd like to partner on and go get this funding to make it happen, we're not literally making the decisions about, oh, we want you to design it as a hydrogen project over, in this case, what their expertise is, which is to do electric charging depot projects. So this company, this is what they do. This is the project that works for them at that location. We do have other hydrogen projects, a number of them that we're actively working on that we can talk a little bit offline for anybody who's interested in some of those. We're looking for funding for those as well, for those folks that also have those technologies, have those locations and fleets that it's still there. It's there's been some difficulties with hydrogen in the last couple of years, but it is still it could make sense in certain situations, and we're in active conversations with a number of folks that are looking for those projects as well. So it's just that this particular project, in terms of who the partners are and what they do electric. I mean, so solicitation is open to both, just like our grant program is open to both. But depending on who comes in and what they actually do, we will fund either of them based on project specifics.
Wonderful. That makes sense. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
You bet. Dr. Sheriffs.
Thank you, and thanks to staff for finding new opportunities and new folks to collaborate with and partners and in our work to clean the valley air. Three questions. One, in terms of renewable properties, how big is this project in relation to the rest of their portfolio? That's one question.
I could just, I know we had talked.
Ballpark, 5%.
It's about in the same order of magnitude. I mean, this is sort of, that's why they're building both of these out about that scale, because this is the replicable sort of level that they've been able to put in place with some basic capacity needs. Anything bigger, you start talking about, major electrical upgrades and sort of, you don't have as much capacity available. So this is, I mean, it's plus or minus. It'll vary based on location, but in looking at some of the other projects, they're kind of in the same ballpark.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And an observation, page 6, with, the fact that this is now coming together with produce and green produce projects we've worked in the past, and we're building on that, and there are new opportunities to engage these projects. Comments about how that interaction is going to.
I think it comes from just lessons learned. We're learning now through that project of electrifying a lot of heavy duty trucks, Tesla trucks at OK Produce, and the interconnection with PG&E, the permitting process, what the technology is, what chargers are needed. So that is key, where they're going to be able to fill that void. Hey, what should we do here? Well, here's what we've done. Here's what we're going to do forward. Here's what makes sense, what we learned in the past. So that's a big part of that, yes.
Well, it's great that a new project is in fact going to integrate.
Yeah, I kind of build
on an old
yeah.
project. Yeah, in some important ways. Third, last question. The Bakersfield future phase, adding 18 chargers, 200 kilowatts. What's that going to be dependent on?
It's going to be dependent on the time PG&E takes to get the power there. Right now, they have 1 megawatt of power now, and then the goal is to ramp it up as they build it out to get it bigger. And the timeline's tough. I don't know exactly how long it takes PG, but that's their goal, is to build it up to be the same style depots when it's all said and done.
We have to get all those balcony chargers together.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions from board members, I will open this up for public comment.
Bakersfield, do you have any public comments on this side?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? Seeing none and no indication of online comments.
All right, then I will bring it back to the board for consideration. Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Pacheco Warner, second by Vice Mayor Nguyen. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Mrs. Escutia Brayton,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Aye.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Reyna,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs,
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen,
Yes.
Ms. Schicklin.
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 9. This is to accept and appropriate $152,000 and 214 in funding from the California Air Resources Board supplemental environmental project programs for residential lawnmower replacements. Todd,
We got some doozy titles.
does
today-
somebody
this
come with us
morning.
to actually use the mower or is it just the mower?
Good question. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Todd DeYoung, your grants program director. Just by way of a brief background, the California Air Resources Board operates what's called the Supplemental Environmental Project Program, or SEP program, which I'll refer to it. This program allows community-based projects to be funded from a portion of penalties received during settlement of CARB enforcement actions. So this is basically a state-run program that allows people that have violations of CARB regulations to settle those violations by putting some funding into these supplemental environmental projects. It aims to improve public health, increase compliance, and then reduce the pollution burden, particularly in communities disproportionately impacted by environmental harm, according to their website. CARB policy allows a SEP to be used in lieu of a portion of the penalty payment to mitigate the effects of these particular violations. That portion is up to 50%, so they can use 50% of what their calculated penalty would be. They can divert it into this program, into the SEP program. Every so often, CARB opens up a solicitation and allows applications for folks to apply. We submitted an application in the most recent application period in September of 2025 to the SEP program. The application proposed in total up to $1 million to replace older high polluting residential lawnmowers with battery operated zero emission lawnmowers to be operated through our existing Clean Green Yard Machine residential lawnmower program. This is a program that we've operated since 2010, and we've replaced more than 14,000 gas-powered lawnmowers with new electric mowers. Just a couple of weeks ago, on July 22nd, CARB notified the district that our application was selected for partial funding in the amount of $152,214. So a little bit of details on the SEP project itself. This project will provide rebates, obviously, to Valley residents who turn in their old gas-powered mowers to a district-approved and contracted dismantling facility and then purchase those new zero-emission mowers. Just some eligibility criteria. Obviously, you must reside in the district boundaries. You cannot have participated in the program over the last 2 years. You have to submit a rebate application within 6 months of purchasing the new equipment. And then you must provide proof of surrendering your old mower to a district-approved dismantling facility. The rebates that are provided are based on the purchase price of the new mowers. It's a sliding scale. For mowers at the lower end of cost, $200 or less, the resident is responsible for a minimum of 50% of the purchase price, or up to $100. And then for this particular program, for this SEP, the eligibility is open to residential lawnmower replacements only. So this slide just shows the rebate amount table. Again, it shows the sliding scale there for a maximum incentive for the higher price mowers of up to $250. And so what do we expect to gain from this program? With the funding that was provided under this SEP, we estimate nearly 570 mowers can be replaced. This would result in about 2.5 tons of combined NOx, ROG, and PM 2.5 emissions being reduced over the life of the project. Utilizing electric lawn care equipment can provide residents with immediate economic, environmental, and health benefits by directly reducing those emissions in and around those neighborhoods where those emissions are being generated. Due to the high cost of some of these new electric mowers, having a substantial incentive up to 50% of the cost does encourage participation of low-income residents, resulting in further emission reductions, particularly within the Valley's disadvantaged communities. And then it allows for the accelerated reductions of NOx, ROG, and PM in this space to improve air quality for all the local residents in the Valley. And so with that, the recommendations are before you there, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right, do we have any questions? Yes, Supervisor Mendez.
How long do you think this funding will last?
Good question. So we budget about $500,000 for the residential program for the entire fiscal year. We've got some set aside funding in some of the AB 617 communities specifically for those. But we think that we can administer this funding within a year. We can put it into our existing program. If we need to ramp up the outreach, we'll work with our OC team to do some targeted outreach if we feel like we're not going to hit those levels that we would expect to. But we would think in the fiscal year we'll be able to administer all this funding.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two questions. Two questions. I thought I had read in the report that turning in the lawnmower was not a requirement. Are there two levels of rebate? And then secondly, some of this money is going to be set aside for the 617 communities. Is there going to be any distribution of the remaining funds by district or by counties to maybe help people who are not centrally located here in the Fresno area?
Both great questions. On your first question, so our existing Clean Green Yard Machine program does have other elements to it. It's got the replacement element that requires you to turn in an old mower to receive a higher incentive amount. It does also allow for a lesser incentive amount if you are just purchasing a new mower and you don't have one to turn in. It's up to $50 for those new purchases. Our decision to include only the replacements was an intentional one. In working with CARB, it was decided that it would be a stronger proposal if we use just the replacement component, because number one, we can calculate a larger emission reduction from a replacement versus just a new purchase, because you can calculate all the way back to what that old piece of equipment was operating at. And so it was decided that it was a stronger proposal and more likely to get funded if we just use that CARB approved emission reduction methodology in the proposal.
To the chair, just another observation. So first of all, this is Valley-wide funding, so it's not focused on any particular like Fresno area or any other specific part of the Valley. The rebates that you're referring to for the I'll call it replacement option, which are lower incentive levels, the board decided to try to also encourage the use of this equipment through this other incentive where you didn't have to turn in, say, a mower. That is well funded, as Todd mentioned, with the 500,000. So this would basically help bolster that replacement component of the program, but we still would have funding available, and we think enough funding for the year, for this other option. And then your question around the 617 funding, that is there is some funding within some of the 617 communities that's separate from the Valley-wide funding. And so those are implemented a little bit differently. There's a steering committee, there's a few community design kind of elements of those programs, but those are separate from like the Valley. Like this would be strictly for the Valley-wide program. It would not in any way, be used in conjunction with the 617 funding. So this would be available in any community. And as Todd mentioned, if there's any suggestions on areas that could use targeted outreach, we look at that closely. I think we do want to ramp up, for example, especially with this new funding. It's a good opportunity. I think it's a great program. Technology is there. Residents, love this technology. We do want to ramp up the outreach a bit this year to try to, now that we have new funding, always open to ideas on how to do that. And we'll talk a little bit about that later with Jamie's public education item. Just kind of brainstorm a bit some of the things that we're doing in the coming year. But I want to be clear that the 617 program is a separate, really hyper kind of local focus sort of thing. This is a valley-wide effort.
And the reason I ask, because when we get these types of fundings, usually there's a chart in here that tells us by county or maybe cities that are participating, how much is going out. And for the area that I'm representing, which would be the cities within Merced, I know there's a low level of people that seem to be participating in these programs. And so I would like to hopefully, that we could figure out a way to make sure that people in the Northern Hemisphere are participating in these programs as well and being able to receive the grant funding.
No, through the chair, I think when we look at our outreach, our targeted strategy in the coming year, we can take a look, for example, at participation rates, and especially if it's like more, urban, more rural, if we can figure out a way to ramp up wherever the smaller communities, may see opportunities to participate in these programs. It's something that we've already been talking about and something that we're very interested in using, all the cool, targeted, outreaching technology to try to make sure, folks are aware of that. This particular program isn't split by city or county. It's a valley-wide program, but I think we can make sure that everybody's at least aware of the opportunity and try to encourage their participation. So I definitely want to support that. Thank you.
Chair. Not seeing any more questions, I will open it up for public comment.
Okay. Bakersfield, do you have any public comments?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments?
No public comments in Modesto.
Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? Seeing none and no indication of online comments.
Okay, then I will bring it back for a motion. Okay, Supervisor Mendez and a second by Dr. Sheriffs, please roll call.
Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Ms. Escutia Brayton,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Reyna,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs,
Aye.
Ms. Swin,
Yes.
Ms. Shucklian.
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, moving along, item 10 is an update on 2026 wildfire prevention and response efforts. Good morning.
Good morning. Much shorter title for this item. Good morning.
No big numbers either.
Yeah, yes. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. I'm John Klassen, Director of Air Quality Science. I'm joined by Heather Heinz, our OC Program Manager. We're going to give you an update on the wildfire season so far here in 2026 and our outreach efforts. So as we all know, we have a good understanding of this, but wildfire emissions can be very significant when these start up. They can easily overwhelm control measures that we have in the region. This can lead to very high concentrations of particulate matter, as well as ozone, because wildfires can produce precursors of ozone like NOx and VOC. So both of these different types of pollutants can increase significantly when we have wildfire impacts. And we know these issues are becoming more concerning with fire suppression policies over time, tree mortality that have come up because of drought conditions, changing climate conditions, all exacerbating and making these wildfire seasons even more intense. And we have a lot of efforts here locally to work with land managers to get as much fuel reduced as possible. And we'll go over some of those details in a few slides. And we know that health impacts from wildfires is significant. And a lot of research continues to come out on this that we're referencing here. But in general, wildfire particulate matter is even more harmful to health, to public health, than other sources of particulate matter, because wildfire smoke can include toxic chemicals, wildfires burn very hot, and so the particulate matter coming off of those fires can be ultra fine, very small particles that can get deeper into the lungs, cause more inflammation. Sometimes these concentrations can be experienced at very high levels, especially for communities near a wildfire. Concentrations can be very high. And with all of that, wildfire smoke can cause a lot more health impact than other types of particulate matter. We continue to monitor this year to year, and this is a look at where we were last year in 2025, August of 2025 on the left-hand side, and then where we are right now in 2026. And this is the drought monitor map that gets updated. And as you can see, we're looking a little bit better now than we were last year. You see less of those red areas and orange areas, but as of right now, we are starting to see some areas of California get into the abnormally dry, and parts of the valley get into the abnormally dry category. Some areas getting into a moderate and severe drought, and we expect this to continue to change color here over the coming months as we continue in the summer season. This is a look at where we are with the number of acres burned from wildfire in 2026 right now compared to 2025, both year to date. And so on the top part of this table, we can see that about 260,000 acres have burned so far across the state in 2026. Last year at this time, we were at about 350,000 acres. So it's not quite as bad as last year's fire season to this point in time. And this changes every week. CAL FIRE continues to update these statistics, and we continue to track this, and we'll continue to provide updates as needed. And this looks at where we are in 2026 over a longer time period. So all the way on the right-hand side, you can see where we are for acres burned in 2026 at about 260,000 acres. And you can look to the left as you go back in time at the different total, and the other bars here aren't year to date. These are the totals for the years. So you can see those two record-breaking years in 2020 and 2021. And then you can see the few years that have happened since then. So our 2026 number is about close to 2022 and 2023. We're getting close to those values. And we expect this total for 26 to continue to increase as the wildfire season continues. We continue to operate our equipment cache program here at the district, where we have a number of more mobile air monitoring pieces of equipment that we can deploy out to support prescribed burn projects. If the community needs to have some local air monitoring done while the project is happening, we have a cache here where we can loan out equipment or help different land managers set up the equipment to monitor in the area. And this is an example here where we worked with Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Park to set up some monitoring by Sequoia Lake. This was an example from last year where we were able to help monitor local air quality for the community while they conducted some prescribed burning in the area. And we continue to operate this program, and we're happy to work with any land managers who want that air monitoring support. The next slide here shows a list here of just some of the larger fires in the region that have impacted air quality in the central region of California and also the San Joaquin Valley. So we list here a lot. I won't read through them, but all the names and the start dates and different locations and the size of the acres. The map on the right there shows all of the fires that have occurred so far that are over 10 acres in size. And the fires that are that gray color, those are fires that have been already contained and put out. And the colored ones there, the orange and the red ones, are active fires right now as of a few days ago that are burning in California. And we work with land managers regularly on a daily basis, a weekly basis, to help them reduce fuels throughout the region to minimize wildfires becoming more extreme as they happen in the future. We work with CAL FIRE and the public to implement hazard reduction burning to create a safe space around buildings and homes. We also work daily with land managers on a daily call that our staff is on to talk about the meteorology that's happening at the time, the air quality, and we hear about what's expected for fire behavior, so we can help work with the land managers to get their projects completed and get our air quality forecast out to them. We also attend interagency and local fire safe council meetings when they come up, and Heather will say a bit more about our efforts there. And then we also work hard to help educate the public on all the different types of burning that occurs in the region. And on the right here is an example of an infographic that we make available that outlines all the different types of burning and programs involved to manage it. And on the right-hand side, you see hazard reduction, prescribed burning, and wildfires. to help the public understand how those different types of burn projects happen. And with that, I'll hand it over to Heather to give us more details on our outreach efforts.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. You see on the screen an image of the annual Fire Cooperators meeting. We did that in May, and a very well-attended meeting. We do this annually. We get a chance to connect with CARB, the land managers, the National Weather Service, and really get to discussing prescribed burning procedures, getting into the details, anticipating the projects for the season and the weather. And I'm not sure what happened to the screen, but I'll continue on. That meeting allows us to make connections, much like Supervisor Shiklian points out, when our star recognition year after year, there's a lot of people in that room that have spent a lot of time in that space. And developing those relationships allows us to advance fuels reduction work and move forward on that work while also protecting air quality. And we're back. Oh. I'm going to give that to you. The role and effort of local fire safe organizations. So the California Fire Safe Council was established decades ago. It serves as the clearinghouse for all the federal level funding that comes into the district or into local agencies to utilize and put into efforts with local agencies. So they partner with fire departments. Thank you. They partner with fire departments, local agencies like ourselves, and they initiate discussion of plans and projects that advance fire safety efforts for the public. We've actually got a workshop coming up with the Eastern Madera Fire Safe Council. There's 9 fire safe councils in the Valley that operate out of that. And on September 2nd, we're going to do a webinar, and we're going to connect with multiple agencies, the UC Cooperative Extension, Yosemite Gateway Prescribed Burn Cooperative, certainly the Fire Safe Council, CAL FIRE, and others, to present information for the public safety information, help them fortify their homes, help them understand what burn decisions mean, and what to do with the various types of burning that you saw on that previous slide. Okay, I'm going to attempt to advance the slide and not make it disappear. Oh, did it. Communicating with the public during wildfire events. This is our bread and butter. It is absolutely, we certainly want the preventative work, but we get into action when fires happen and smoke invades the valley. We have partnerships with the health departments across all 8 counties that we serve. We also participate in the Public Information Officers subgroup that is a part of the Central California Public Health Consortium. Those relationships are awesome and allow us to provide public health information and gather other levels of public health information as we continue those relationships. We also, of course, talk to Spanish and English media. We have several hundred partners across the Valley of media outlets. We're in touch with them immediately. We talk to Valley schools. In fact, there was a fire that popped up yesterday afternoon in like the Kern, Tulare, Kings area. It's called the Alpa fire. We were right on to next door with that, in touch with schools in the area. It grew overnight from 500 to 3,600 acres. And so we're right there in the middle of all that. Excuse me. We're right there in the mix of all that, talking to the public and making sure they're aware, prepared, and able to react. There it is. All right. The educating residents on available air quality tools is key because there are many, and we support all of them. The key is that they're checking air quality, protecting themselves, and know that there are tools available to them during these episodes. On the screen currently, you'll see our app, the Valley Air app. It also reflected the Air Now app, the fire and smoke map, which is awesome. It gives you a little bit more in-depth level information, the way the smoke plumes travel. And on those maps are the local monitors that John mentioned. We get to deploy that information. It's readily available to the public. They get it immediately during the incident. We also have a wonderful wildfire page. That wildfire prevention and response webpage has, I'm going to advance it, has been developed over the last 10 years. It's an incredible resource. It's current. When I actually went, I'm so proud of our team. Anecdotal information, I went to prepare social media for that fire yesterday, and the fire was already on the page of our wildfire page because our team is on it. And I was so impressed. But it enables us to be nimble and swift and help protect the public. That wildfire page also will pretty much always show you any potential fires that might be impacting the valley. And then, of course, it has all of the resources we've amassed over the decade, how to do purifiers in, do-it-yourself purifiers at home, where to go for a clean air room or a clean air center, and then just connections to all the partners that we deal with. Excuse me, the land managers, the EPA, and all the resources available in that wildfire preparedness space. I'm going to advance it just in case it comes back up. The increasing importance of social media. Certainly, we all use it, or many of us use it, but that is a quick and immediate response. We talk in our communication meetings about how the general public go to TikTok to get quick information. And if we're not in that space providing accurate information, then we need to be, and we are. So we are across a bunch, as you see on the screen, of social media places, including Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads. And we're doing both preparedness messages and in the moment during actual event messages, giving them a sense of the wildfire page, just so they know there's air quality resources available to them, and they don't have to operate alone during all of that. And in the same way, we develop these tools over time. You're seeing the wildfire infographic on the screen. We have that in English, Spanish, Punjabi, and Hmong. Having that tool allows us to share it with partner agencies. It extends our message. We certainly have all the information, but when we can amplify it across our partners and extend it out into the public, that's the best course of action. Same thing with the lovely wildfire smoke brochure. It sort of provides the same guidance, just gives the general public the basics, what to expect. Sometimes it might be a brand new incident for someone and you just literally don't know what to do. That wildfire smoke readiness brochure points them to clean air centers, educates them on how to make a clean air room, tells them that there are available data information and places to protect themselves, all the way down into, hey, talk to your doctor and get an N95 fitted if you've got respiratory conditions and need to be outside during the wildfire.
Through the chair, just a quick little technology update. The presentation is still visible online. We're having some we call hardware glitchiness right now, where if you haven't noticed, across the regions where it's taken a while for the slides to come up. But everybody in person has handouts. It's a little glitchy on the screen. So thank you for your patience on that. I think we're okay online. So we're just going to keep going for now. And I'll just keep looking to our IT department. Let us know if there's anything beyond kind of what we're experiencing right now, but we just wanted to let you know that it's not just you if you're noticing something a little interesting behavior there on the screen. So just wanted to let you know what was going on. So go ahead.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Thank you for that update, Samir. We're pretty close anyway. One of the awesome programs we've been able to implement in the last few years is the Clean Air Rooms program. We've ended up distributing more than 26,000 air purifier devices for the public in disadvantaged and low-income communities across the valley that don't maybe have access to clean air when these incidents happen. HEPA filtration devices we are told they can reduce indoor particulate matter by more than 90%. So they get one of those devices, it's a raging wildfire outside, close the doors and windows, put the towel at the base of the door, don't light any candles, don't do any vacuuming, and turn on that purifier, and you can have some decent purified air in maybe the main room of your home where your family and everybody's hanging out. And of course, similar concept, but broader scale, clean air centers. Happy to report we successfully contracted all the funding we had for this. That currently looks like 74 operating centers with 5 sort of coming online as we speak, a total of 79 across the valley. This is libraries, senior centers, public spaces, many of which will operate their purifiers anyway. If they're in that space open daily, they provide that for the public, but then certainly are the clean air center to have reprieve during wildfire events. Ultimately, everything we've just showed you and talked about is a collection of multiple agencies, multiple languages, and really tried and true efforts from our agency to protect the public and be ready. That's all I have.
All right. Do we have any questions? Yes, Councilmember Scutia Bratton.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. You have a slide on six trend of fire acre burned in California by year. Do you have that same graph for trends of the number of fires in California per year? Not
We do
acres,
have
but-
that, yes, we
yeah.
do have that data, not, off the top of my head, but we do have that metric we could look at as well.
Can you
And,
throw out
to-
a couple like in 2026 or maybe last year? I'm kind of curious. I was quite surprised how many fires we've had thus far with the one. So I was just kind of curious, on average, how many fires does California experience?
Yeah, so if you go back through the chair to slide number 5, it partially answers, I think, your question, but there's the 5-year average, which is a year-to-date average. So it's not like the total number of fires for the entire year, but like at the bottom row, you'll see the 5-year average is about 5,900 fires up till this point in the year, whereas in 2026 it's been 4,600 so far. Last year it was about 5,300 by this same point in time. It does feel like, I mean, all these numbers, I think, the one thing that's not here is going kind of farther back in time, kind of comparing like over these past 5 years, how have that number of fires maybe compared to where we were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And the data's there, and we're happy to pull together and share it. But yeah, that might give a little bit more information to what
Yeah,
you're.
it would be interesting to see the trend in fires if the collective educational and outreach and awareness to the community is making a difference in the number of fires that we experience. So it would be an interesting graphic to take a look at. Thank you
I think
very
the
much.
other thing that you're seeing through the chair, maybe it's related to your question, is one thing that we didn't really get into during the presentation is sort of the response that we're observing out there when fires do ignite. There's been a lot of resources that the state and the federal government have been putting into kind of building out some of the fleets and kind of the fire response side of it. It does appear, I don't have like hard data on this, but it does appear, at least anecdotally, but I think it's probably verified by other information, that there's been some pretty quick kind of response in many cases in trying to kind of limit the spread of these fires and the acreage. So I think there's like the number of fires. There's also like, how, and just anecdotally, I talked to a couple of board members about some of the things that we've seen recently with some of the fires that were just like super quick response compared to maybe where it was 5-10 years ago. So I think that's just another one of the things that's really interesting too, is the
Agreed.
acreage kind of like maybe being suppressed wildfire site because of some of the response maybe that we've seen recently.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
Great, Dr. Sheriffs.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. And, I think the last couple of years has really seen the district enhance what's going on in this arena. This is a great suite of resources, important content, ways for the public to access information about this really important issue. And I like the emphasis on health, and really actionable things that the public can do related to fire, smoke worries, and being informed about fire. So it's a really, really powerful, well done. And it just keeps getting better and better. And I will mention the California Academy of Family Physicians, which is the second largest physician organization in California, references on their website air districts for precisely this reason. Because it's important information for patients and having an impact on their health helping. So great resource. Thank you. A very minor comment. On slide 9, the visual, this is depicted. This is a wildfire issue. It's not a forest fire issue. Forest fires are part of wildfires, but it's a wildfire issue. And really most of the smoke has come from wildfires, not forest fires, in terms of rangeland burning, brushland burning, fires like the Palisades fires. And, you know, it's kind of the climax of that slide is wildfires, which is true, but they look like forest fires. And I think as an education, as a reminder for I don't know how to tweak it, but it's fires. And it's a reminder that it's, you know, we need to be doing all of the above. We do need to be doing forest management. That's an important issue. You know, we need to be working hard in terms of buildings, because we understand most buildings burn because they're not hardened. It's not a fire right next to it. It's the sparks and so on. So grounds management and hardening buildings is critical to preventing infrastructure destruction. And of course, climate change is a huge driver of this. And we need to continue to pay attention to that and contribute to improving that where we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's very important to note that in terms of the response and why it's gotten better is the investments, right? The investments that we've put into this type of response. And I do think that CAL FIRE is using their resources very wisely, but they're definitely resources that we all help fund in the state of California. And so I think that that's really important to note that there's, you know, when we invest in something, it can get better. And the other thing I wanted to note is, or just kind of maybe even ask, I know that there's a lot of work with the Public Health Consortium, and then I do see it in the infographic that explains the different types of burning, the sensitive populations. And I wonder if there's room as we think about the next sort of variation or vision for infographics, if we could have some targeted infographics around these sensitive receptors, like, you know, pregnant women and elders and people with heart conditions that might not necessarily think automatically that, you know, wildfire might put them specifically at risk. You know, there might be an opportunity there.
Through the chair, and I think it's definitely something we want to, we'd love to prioritize that even more in our conversations about this. It is really amazing. You know, when we look at this, you know, despite all the efforts to point out the health impacts and maybe doing things like a clean air space in your home, you know, there's still, I think, a lot of low-hanging fruit in terms of folks understanding, you know, just how impactful this can be if you're especially if you're pregnant or have other sensitivities, you know, health sensitivities. I think there's always opportunity to keep pushing that. Just a little anecdotal story. My wife was in Detroit area when the Canadian fires were raging. If you recall the news around that, it was, you know, some of the worst, if not the worst, wildfire related air quality levels that have been seen, I think, ever, like in the US. And but, you know, just anecdotally, you know, not having a strong educational program out there, the history that we have here with looking at these issues, you know, I mean, everybody was out jogging, you know, the weather was outside of crazy PM 2.5 levels. There was, you know, I think her observation as somebody who works in public health was they could really use some education, you know, to let people know, like, that there are times when you need to be thinking about this if you have sensitivities, and especially. So I think that, you know, for us, we have a mature program, but I think the more we can keep looking for those opportunities to emphasize that, there's always going to be some, you know, some extra benefit to that. So definitely want to support that comment.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Lewis, your name disappeared, but I know you wanted something.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one question for my edification. We have the California Fire Safe Council, and then we have a local Fire Safe Council that disseminates information to residents and government agencies. So for government agencies within the San Joaquin Valley, especially our fire departments, are they invited in to come to these meetings or educational moments?
Through the chair, yes, absolutely, Supervisor Lewis. Any agency that we can wrap into that fold, we do. local fire departments, even sort of community centers programming, points of reception to the public. Those are invited and encouraged to be at the table in any environment through that. But California Fire Safe Council funds it, and then those local fire safe councils are the ones that bring it to life and actually implement it on the ground.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Pereira, good morning.
Well, thank you for that. Good morning, Madam Chair. So I want to, I guess, take a moment to, one, tell you something that I've seen over the last probably 6 years, and then give a couple of shout outs. And that is that the response to the fires used to be, the ground crews would show up and do what they were doing. And then if they couldn't wrap their arms around it, then air support would come in. And I've noticed that since, 2019 and 2020, when we had those incredible years of so many acres burned, that the philosophy has changed. In fact, there was a fire 2 years ago up kind of near the mill up there by on Highway 108 and LaGrange Road there in Jamestown. And it didn't burn 2 acres, and there was already air support had been in. And so we're noticing that in Merced. Are you seeing that around the valley as well? Elsewhere? But the air support's coming in quicker, I guess.
We are definitely seeing that across the valley. Yes.
And then do you know why? Was there a policy shift at some level, or is it just that's what we're doing now?
I think you're right. In response to those really bad wildfire years in the early 2020s, 2021, with how extreme those were, I think there is a more of a policy shift to try to handle these fires much more quickly so they don't get out of control and damage property and neighborhoods. So I think we've seen that happen, and some of the total acreage of burned acres we're seeing since those really bad years, we've seen that decline quite a bit. So additional resources into CAL FIRE is really helping. And I think that policy shift is a part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the shout out, one is CAL FIRE, right? They have really stepped up, at least, in our area, in their air fighting of fires. And so I want to acknowledge that. And the second one is actually Pacific Gas and Electric. They have a helicopter stationed in Atwater at Castle that I believe it holds 1,000 gallons of water, and they've loaned it to us for the fire season. And it's really, they provide the pilot as well. But anyways, it just has really made a big impact. We had a fire the other day, actually near my home, and had the potential to be one of those 400 or 500 acre fires, and they got there so quick it held it really to about 4 acres. And so anyways, just want to acknowledge that. I don't know if any other board members have resources coming into their areas different than CAL FIRE or PG&E, and I just think we need to acknowledge that because it's making a big difference in the air quality here in the valley.
Thank you, Supervisor. Just one comment I want to make before public comment is that you touched on it and Dr. Sheriff's touched on it as far as the Alpaw fire. It's not a forest fire. It's right on the valley floor, Tulare Kings County line, and it's at 3,700 acres. There were evacuation warnings yesterday and whatnot. So it's everywhere. Yeah, most definitely. So, okay. Any public comment?
Bakersfield, do you have any public comments?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Are there any public comments in Fresno? Seeing none and none online.
Okay. With that, we will, this is not an action. Thank you, buddy. What do I do without you? All right. Thank you, folks. All right. Good morning. Number 11. This is a report on the state budget and legislative efforts.
Through the chair, want to just quickly introduce Mark. You've seen him here before. It's getting close to the end of a legislative session, so we're happy to provide you with what should be close to the last report for now. On another very busy legislative year, both on the budget and other issues. So I think there's going to be some positive developments, especially in the budget, that we want to share with you, and just kind of give you an update on the overall kind of landscape with where we are as we get to the end of the session. So with that, Mark, go ahead and fire it up.
All right.
Thanks, Mayor. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Mark Montalongo, Director of Policy and Government Affairs, here to provide you a report on the state budget and legislative efforts. I don't see the presentation. Yeah, okay. The district has a long history of developing and implementing air quality strategies with plans achieving significant emission reductions. Our stationary sources since the 1990s have achieved over a 94% reduction in NOx emissions, which is the primary driver of ozone and PM 2.5. Our incentive programs are recognized, as you know, as the gold standard throughout the state and nationally for achieving emission reductions. Something good to be proud of, with over 7.8 billion in public-private partnership for voluntary incentive programs, which is a huge benefit to improving air quality and public health here in the Valley. While significant air quality progress has been made, over 80% of the NOx emissions in the Valley are from mobile sources. In order to meet our current air quality mandates, strong state and federal support is needed. At the beginning of each year, your board approves the district's legislative mandate, which helps guide our efforts in support of this mission. So I'd like to provide an update on our advocacy efforts so far. We'll start with the state first, and then there's one slide at the end related to the federal update. Just wanted to touch on a couple of policy bills during this session, starting with AB 1777, which was introduced by Assemblymember Robert Garcia last year, was pulled at the member's request during mid-session. It was reintroduced this year and would have clarified CARB's authority to regulate emissions associated with indirect sources. This bill did not pass the Assembly by the May 29th, 2026 House of Origin deadline, therefore is no longer active. Moving on to the next bill, SB 1039, which was introduced by Senator Shannon Grove, which would have required additional guidance and provisions allowing for the exclusion of pollutants for fence line monitoring. This bill was set on Senate appropriations and did not get out. Therefore, this bill is no longer active. Moving to Senate Bill 1075, which was introduced by Senator Reyes, would have established additional regulatory and reporting requirements under AB 617 with no new resources. This bill was set on Assembly appropriations. It was placed on the suspense file and was held under committee last week. So this bill is no longer active. Moving on to the bills that are active, AB 2349, which was introduced by Assemblymember Jose Solache, provides resources for regional network of air quality incident response centers operated by local air districts to facilitate emergency air monitoring response. Given what recently transpired in the Tracy Warehouse fire, this bill would provide support to local air districts in order to facilitate emergency air monitoring response at the local and regional levels. This bill passed the Senate Appropriations Committee last week and now moves to the floor for a vote. So this bill is active. The district is, as part of the 35 air districts across the state, CAPCOA, there's been a support position that's been taken on this bill. So it's a bill that we're currently monitoring that is still active through the process. AB 2635, which was introduced by Assemblymember Celeste Rodriguez, requires large and medium air districts no later than January 1st, 2028 to implement a commercial voucher program for zero emission small off-road equipment to the extent there is funding available. There are a few issues with this bill that are problematic. We're working through those at the moment. This bill has passed the Senate Appropriations Committee last week and now moves to the floor for a vote, so it's still active. And through the CAPCOA process, we have taken an opposed position on this bill. Another bill that we're monitoring is SB 58, which was introduced by Senator Steve Padilla, which would require CARB in consultation with air districts and other agencies to develop guidance and best practices for addressing natural sources of hydrogen sulfide, and required OEHA to update their health exposure levels. This bill did get out of Senate Appropriations. We did get out of Appropriations Committee last week and now moves to the floor for a vote. So this bill is still active. It's just a bill that we're monitoring and have no position on. Continuing on the state advocacy side, under the district's leadership, we've had tremendous success in working with our legislative delegation and our stakeholders in securing funding in the state budget to improve air quality and public health, over $1 billion in funding in the past 10 years. As you are aware, in recent years, the state has experienced significant budget deficits, reducing the availability of funding for clean air and other programs. Farmer funds have been reduced from a peak of $150 million to $0 in fiscal year 25-26. We've had success in securing community air protection funds and for our 617 program, $100 million statewide in fiscal year 25-26, and up to $250 million a year through a continuous appropriation moving forward under the framework of SB 840. We are actively working with a broad coalition of Valley and other stakeholders to ensure our funding priorities are communicated through the legislative process. Our legislative priorities this year are seeking farmer funding, $200 million a year statewide. As you are aware, we have significant demand on this program, over $600 million in pending shovel-ready applications ready to be funded. The Legislative Analyst Office has noted this program as being the most cost-effective program in terms of dollars per ton in achieving emission reductions. And more importantly, this oversubscribed program provides SIP-credible emission reductions, which are critical to meeting our attainment deadlines. Overall, a win-win in improving air quality. And so as we get to the end here, as Samir mentioned, we remain hopeful and keep pushing to try to get this program some funding. Alternatives to open burning, $75 million a year statewide, given that the Valley has implemented a first of its kind state mandated phase out of agricultural open burning in partnership with CARB. This funding will support the processing of over 2 million tons of material annually and achieve approximately 20,000 tons of emission reductions while advancing the climate and soil and water benefits of the state. We are also seeking $200 million a year statewide for clean vehicles and other equipment. This investment in the sector is critical to addressing the significant emissions deficit created by the loss of the state's waivers. Funding will accelerate the deployment of cleaner technologies such as heavy duty truck sector, off-road agricultural equipment, locomotives, and passenger vehicles. For example, our Clean Cars for All program, which is a very popular program here in the San Joaquin Valley. Recently, on May 29, 2026, CARB adopted amendments to the Cap and Invest program intended to align the program with legislative direction and climate targets. Recently, the Department of Finance released some information for fiscal year 26-27. By approving these amendments, estimated to reduce the amount of greenhouse gas reduction fund revenues from $3.4 billion to $2.7 billion. These reduced revenues increase the uncertainty regarding the state's ability to fund, the commitments under the SB 840 framework, including the Community Air Protection Program and Farmer. We continue to stay actively engaged with CARB, the legislature, and the governor's office on our clean air funding priorities. The district's Citizen Advisory Committee has written support letters in support of the district's clean air priorities for farmer and alternatives to ag burn. On June 15th, the state budget was adopted under AB 109, and greenhouse gas reduction funds decisions remain active with major decisions regarding GGRF and other clean air funding until the end of legislative session. So the end of legislative session would be at the end of this month. And so we are checking in on things every single day. Just wanted to turn to fiscal year 26-27, the clean air funding priorities to date. For the Community Air Protection Program, the community focus, which reduced emissions through various programs through AB 617. There's currently $150 million budgeted for fiscal year 26-27 through the state budget, plus an estimated $47 million in GGRF funding under the SB 840 framework. For our Clean Cars for All program, which is essentially replaces older vehicles with newer plug-in EVs and hybrids. There's currently 19.8 million in the current budget in the 26-27 state budget and 17 million in new funding committed for 5 years. Very popular program here in the Valley. Our farmer program, which essentially replaces higher polluting agricultural equipment, we're awaiting final budget to determine if any funding will be included in that. Currently, there is no funding in the 26-27 state budget. The alternatives to open burning, which supports the alternatives to essentially reincorporate some of that material back into the soil. And we're awaiting the final budget to determine if there's any funding included. Currently, there's no funding in the 26-27 state budget. So we continue our advocacy through the budget and trailer bill process to protect community air protection and Clean Cars for All funding, working towards restoring farmer funding and securing funding for ag burn alternatives. Lastly, on the federal side, we continue to stay engaged with US EPA on Clean Air Act implementation. For example, our plans and our rules and exceptional events related to wildfires and prescribed burns, any legislation that is out there. We continue to stay engaged with US EPA and our Valley delegation to ensure the secure of funds under the Clean Air Act 103, 105, targeted airshed grants and diesel emission reduction Act, which is also known as DARA grant funding. The 103, 105 grants support our work to implement the Clean Air Act mandates. The TAG grants support clean air incentives such as wood stove changeouts and ag equipment replacement. The DARA funds support our clean air work incentives for heavy duty diesel equipment and vehicle replacement. And we are currently preparing to submit DARA and TAG projects under an anticipated NOFO. To Dr. Sherris's point earlier in the meeting about looking for opportunities, this is a good segue for that. We've submitted 2 grant proposals to the U.S. Department of Transportation under the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Program, also known as CRISI, $11.8 million locomotive replacement grant for to replace 6 aging diesel locomotives with more efficient, clean locomotives. We've also submitted a $25 million grant for the truck emissions and port facilities program for truck replacement and infrastructure. And we are currently developing grant proposals to NRCS under the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, 2 $10 million projects, one for ag tractor replacement and one for alternatives to ag burning for orchards and vineyards.
I just wanted to, through the chair, make a couple of closing kind of observations. First of all, implementing the board's legislative and policy priorities is a year-round exercise. The region, as you all know, has a lot of challenges with air quality and other factors. You know, we are often overlooked, you know, when it comes to resources. And so we have a rich history of telling our story and trying to work hard with coalitions within the Valley to try to bring resources to the Valley. So this year has been no exception of that. Mark is a big part of that. We have actually a large team that we've assembled within the district, whether it's a grant, interest, whether it's policy. There's a number of folks that are involved in really just trying to push for better policy and for good resources coming to the Valley. So I think overall, this was a very difficult budget year, and we were able to see some major successes, I think, between 617, Clean Cars for All. I'm optimistic on farmer. I'm a little bullish on that right now. We don't know the exact amount, and it's officially zero until, you know, basically everything comes out in print with any of the final trailer bill details that come out, you know, before the session is over, and then things go over to the governor for a signature in September. But you know, I am hopeful that the arguments are strong and are resonating, you know, within the legislature. And And obviously, one of the most cost-effective things that the state can do, especially in response to some of the challenges that we've seen with some of the other mobile source measures. So I just wanted to let the board know that, we greatly appreciate also the support of the board itself. You're part of that team. You're all advocating in every space that you can. And it takes a village in the Valley, working with other partners in agriculture, with the NGOs, CBOs, cities, counties. There's just a lot of work that goes into trying to tell this story. And I think we're going to see some good results at the end, especially in a difficult year with all the complexities out there, state, federal, and the budget deficits that, we're looming kind of early in the year. So with that, I'll just kind of close and express appreciation to the team. Mark Morgan's a big part of that as well. But there's really just a huge team behind the scenes here that helps me kind of provide that voice on behalf of the board and the board itself, who's always a big champion for the Valley. So with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions by board members? Yeah, Liz?
So Mayor, when you get, and Mark, when you get some final, will you just send out an email to the board and let us know what the final, I know it's gonna all come down to the last minute maneuver.
31st.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor. I've been that. Been there, done that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just out of curiosity, are there any other air districts in the state of California, especially where there's other farming, that have applied for clean cars and tractor replacement? And is this amount of money here just specifically to us, or is it for the statewide? If that's the
That's a
case?
good questions through the chair. These are statewide amounts, and so the amount the Valley gets will vary year to year. We do get a significant portion of these different programs. To look as one example, farmer, again, being bullish on seeing something in the budget, we typically get 80% of that total. 617, we're more like in the 25% range. It really just depends on the there's a kind of a re-evaluation, every year based on workload and other factors with CARB and other districts. But yes, these are strongly supported statewide. So if the farmer request, the alternatives to open burning, even though San Joaquin Valley is the only region that faces the actual mandate to eliminate open burning, we are the only region in the state and as far as I know in the country to have this very bold kind of strategy in place. There are other parts of the state that are also in ways interested in shipping and other things where they also are trying to move away as much as possible from open burning. The farmer program is very popular across the state. Even though we get 80% of the funding, there's a lot of interest from other regions, and we get a lot of support from other regions. We work with CAPCOA, or my partner APCOs, to push together on these different things. So I think that hopefully I answered your question, but these are statewide allocations, and there is interest, growing interest actually. For example, Clean Cars for All, we actually built that program locally here. We developed it. We piloted it with local funding. Then it became a couple of large districts got interested in it, and then that became a statewide program. Farmer is no exception. We were the first to build a tractor replacement program that became the Carl Moyer guidelines, and then that became the farmer program. So we have a history of sort of like the rest of the state does kind of catch up eventually to the once they see the benefits of the work that we do here.
So historically, roughly what percentage of the Clean Cars program have we been getting from the state funding?
I would say somewhere in the 30% to the 35% range. I don't have that number in front of me, but it's, as we're 10% of the state's population, and, the Southern California area alone is somewhere, I think, around 45% of the state's population. So I think that and they have programs as well. So we've been pretty aggressive on trying to keep healthy allocations to the Valley, especially given our lower income communities that, would greatly benefit from the program, but I think as other interest ramps up in other parts of the state, it's kind of an ongoing, challenge. We have to just keep fighting really hard within that space. And we actually, I think from a performance perspective, demand is always highest here. The turnaround time in performing under these different grants, we're always ahead of others. So it's always been very helpful when we work with CARB to think about the next allocation, those are big factors in looking at, okay, well, what's the next round going to look like? And so that's something we work on very hard to push for that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem Reyna.
Good morning, Chair. How are you?
I'm good.
It's great to see all of this priorities for funding. But I wanted to talk briefly about Clean Cars for All and how we go about making this available to the communities that we serve. And I do know, I spoke to Samir yesterday, that anyone can sign up online at any time. But as I look at how this program is brought to the communities, I've seen that there is a big emphasis in AB 617 communities, which is great. But I really would like to see perhaps taking this program to other small communities. They were in Wasco one time that I know. I visited with them, and there was a large concurrence, people wanting to take advantage of this program. So my suggestion is that as we get additional funding, and I know funding is limited, that we take this to other smaller communities, Wasco, McFarland, and others throughout the counties that we serve. So that is my recommendation. Any input on that?
Through the chair. Yeah, no, we had a great discussion about this and very much support the principle of looking for ways, as we discussed earlier with the Clean Green Yard Machine program, making sure that there is good outreach and awareness in communities like Wasco and other more rural communities, maybe that aren't in the urban centers in the valley. I think there's certainly opportunity for that. We're going to talk a little bit later about public education. And for example, we're happy to report that, very soon we're going to be reopening the portal, which is information that we'll share with the board, so you can make sure that your constituents are aware of that. As we open the portal, the really good question is going to be, hey, can we take advantage of some of these really good tools that we have now for targeted outreach, so that when it is opened, all communities like Wasco, are fully empowered, residents are seeing the message and can take advantage of the program. Can we do more events in communities like Wasco, for example? Like I think the one held there was at a pizza place, a local pizza place, which are very very popular, high demand programs. You don't necessarily have to show up to like a fairground, and those events are also popular, but we have a multifaceted way of participating in the program. You can actually go online, but then the question becomes, are you aware of it, that it's available to you? Do you have the support that you need? Is the outreach, working in all communities? So it is something that we're looking at, trying to make sure we meet the spirit of what you're talking about, multifaceted, whether it's events, whether it's also just the outreaching, so people are aware of these things when they're available. So we can keep communications on that as we think ahead, when we talk about these programs. That is something we've already been doing, by the way. We get a lot of interest from the different parts of the valley, and do a lot of outreach actually already, and participation from throughout the valley. But we can always keep looking for more opportunities to do that.
All right.
Thank you.
Dr. Sheriff.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the presentation, and boy, thank you for your refusal to be discouraged. To continue to fight the good fight, to stay the course, to be persistent, to be mission health driven and public driven. In public comments at the beginning, there were 3 bills that were mentioned: 222, 2313, and 868. Minor compared to a lot of these budgetary considerations, but are they bills of interest? Are they bills that CAPCO is paying attention to and taking any kind of stand on?
Yeah, through the chair. Just a quick response. They're definitely of, I think there were of some level of interest within CAPCOA. They are, there isn't an opposed position. First, I have to say, I think there were definitely, early concerns that I'm just trying to recall off the top of my head. I don't just paint them all with the same broad brush. I think the issues are probably different between the bills, but definitely some questions around local control. I know that there was a lot of local jurisdictional sort of questions, if I recall, some of these bills, would impose very specific requirements on, city and county governments, including even things like how much you could charge for, permits and things. And so there were, I think a lot of the big debates around these bills have to do with, was there enough meaningful conversation between all of the parties involved to land on something that works at the end. And I think that's kind of the issue with many policy bills, is that I think there's always a goal that may make sense actually. But I think it's always really important in the legislative process that all relevant parties are effectively engaged with. And I think that's where, like I said, there is no position from CAPCOA that I can recall on these bills. And I think partially due to, some complexities there that are really important to all of us, that, there's a good solution at the end and not just a well-intentioned bill. I'm going to look into it some more and kind of see where things are at. I did take note, by the way, of the bill numbers to go back and kind of compare it to our platform and see if there's something that we could do to evaluate those again.
All right, seeing no more board member questions, I will open this up for public comment.
Okay, I think we'll start in Fresno. Are there any public commenters in Fresno?
Yes, there
Do you
is.
have one?
Members of the board, my name is Roger Rice. I'm with the California Cotton Ginners and Growers Association and the Western Tree Nut Association. I'm going to be brief, but I think it's important that I get up today to make a couple of comments on this. I want to recognize and thank the district and the staff and the team that Samir mentioned. Quite honestly, they don't have to do what they're doing. They could easily just sit back and say, hey, here's the regulations. We got to improve air quality, and this is what you got to do. But I can tell you that, and I'm not sure I share the same optimism that Samir does. I hope that it is, but I can assure you it's not by lack of trying. I've been in Sacramento many times this year, and I don't know if there's a day where I was at the Capitol where Samir or Mark wasn't there, or their lobbying team wasn't there pushing for farmer, pushing for ag burn incentives. And even one incident where I had some of my board members up there, and they actually joined us in a couple of meetings with legislators pushing for farmer and ag burn funding. And I can assure you, my board members were very impressed and very appreciative of the efforts that have been made. And we all know, and I think this district in particular knows, incentives are the key. They get the reduction sooner, faster, and more readily accepted than anything out there. And this district, more than any other district out there, has made an extreme effort to try to make these happen. And again, I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. We've tried to do as much as they are in terms of trying to push for this funding, and we'll be there as well. But I think they need to be recognized, and very much appreciative of what they've done to help us try to get those incentives. So thank you.
Appreciate those comments, Roger. And we agree.
Another commenter?
Good morning. Again, Manuel Cunha, DC Farmers Lake. First, I'd like to accolade up on what Roger said, Samir and Mark and the entire team and the board for all the outreach that you've done since the beginning of this thing this year, especially on the tight budget. A comment too I would like to make is that the farm tractor program is the most cost-effective program across the country. In 25 of January 1, most of the waivers that CARB has sought, even under the Biden administration, were not approved. Those waivers left a big shortfall for this state of 165 tons of NOx. And which is amazing is that the governor, who has talked so much about clean air and all of that, has not really come out to say, hey, we have a shortfall here because of the waivers, but we're going to hold on until we get a new president. And then we're going to change that back, and we're going to force the waivers back to the public, back to the industries and business. I have real problems with that. But when the governor takes cap and trade money that businesses have paid for those credits, and that money is to deal with clean air activities now, not 25 years from now, not 30 years from now, for taking money to the high-speed rail of $1 billion. And we just got done talking about a great development department called CAL FIRE, taking $1 billion to 1.5 billion, now down to 1 billion out of cap and trade. When both of those should have come out of the general fund's money. The Clean Car Program, 200 million, you get 19 million for one of the greatest programs for everybody. And I agree with the supervisor down in Bakersfield. Yes, to the rural community areas, we got to get that out there. But again, our farmers have 6,000 tractors into this air district. And if something doesn't happen, they're going to come back to Roger and I and others and say, are we going to get funding or not? Or we just been abandoned from this project? They're going to pull it. And whenever we do ever get the money back, they won't come back on a voluntary program. And if there's an attempt, like the cardboard attempt to do 3 weeks ago, well, let me tell you, there will be fires in hell to be paid, because we're not going to sit around and let us be regulated out of existence that feed this world and this country. But again, I want to thank the federal partners, but this district doesn't have to do that. Samir, you don't have to go out and work with NRCS and get $20 million or $30 million, and you are, your entire team. And I commend you. The federal government doesn't have to have any part of this project. This is our issues, but they're stepping up to help us, and that is great. And again, Madam Chair, I want to thank the entire board, though, for all the work that you have done for reaching out. And Board Member Lewis, thank you. You've done some really screaming and yelling up there in the northern end. And you've done a great job on that. And I want to commend you for that, because I've heard and people talk. So again, thank you for all your hard work in the northern part of this great valley. And again, Samir, Mark, thank you. I think Mark was saying that he was going to recommend that all the staff at the district, we're going to give 1 year's free salary up, just so we can have money for the ag burn.
Your time's up.
I talked this morning and Mark said that that's off the table. So we're back to the legislature again. So
Got you, guys.
thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you. Are there any other public members in Fresno? Seeing none in Fresno, Bakersfield, do you have any public commenters?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any public comments?
No public comments in Modesto.
Okay, I do have one online request. JP Catavilla.
Good morning,
Hi.
JP.
Good morning. Just wanted to, I'll keep it brief. I'm JP Cataviello with Dairy Cares, a statewide dairy farming association. We represent members who process milk, as well as dairy farms themselves. Our members include dairy co-ops and dairy trade associations and others. On behalf of that group, I just want to provide a thank you and echo the comments of Roger Isom and Manuel Cunha for the incredible efforts of the Air District staff, Morgan, Mark, Samir, many others, I'm sure, to continue to fight the good fight for farmer funding and an ag equipment replacement. This is essential to meeting our air quality goals, and it's been said already, so I won't repeat it much, but just underline that this isn't something they have to do, but it's something that they've done for this year, incredible work, previous years, and really have built the programs that we're talking about today. So just want to make sure that you hear the support of the dairy industry today for all that the Air District has done to make these incentives available, and hope that Samir is right with his optimism that we might see some funding this year. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, JP.
No further online comments.
Okay, that's it. That was an informational item. So thank you, Mark. And item 12 is a verbal report on state implementation plans.
So as all our key directors here, Tim Franquist, Director of Planning, and John Klassen, you heard from earlier, Director of Air Quality Science, as they work their way and they're now here, just want to again, just kind of paint the backdrop of this update, come off the board with updates on implementation of the Clean Air Act. It's one of the fundamental things, if not the most fundamental thing that the board does is ensure that the region meets the various public health driven requirements of the Clean Air Act. is very complicated. I do feel like the complexity of the requirements increases every year, which I know is hard to believe given how complex it is, but a lot does happen between these updates. And so I just wanted to thank you in advance for your patience and going through, some pretty complex information here on where we are with different standards and some of the plans that are being developed for that. So with that, turn it over to John and Tim. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Samir. So if there's issues with the PowerPoint, you can follow along with your handout. So let's go to slide number 2. Just a bit of background. As we know, we have a unique combination of meteorology and topography. We have surrounded by mountain ranges. Our meteorology can place a lid over the bowl of the valley, not allowing pollutants to disperse and escape. And so that creates a lot of challenges for us. And this picture here just shows a foggy day during the winter season, where the entire Central Valley all the way up to Sacramento is covered in fog. And this is just indicative of the atmospheric stability we can experience during the year, trapping air within the bowl of the valley, making it a challenge for us. And as we also know, this is a major goods movement corridor throughout the central part of California. Major freeways are running through the area. We have a lot of mobile source emissions from cars, heavy duty trucks, locomotives. And due to this, a huge part of our attainment strategies have often and always been surrounded around mobile sources, needing that to be a part of the picture and the puzzle to get big emissions reductions from mobile sources to help us meet the ozone and PM 2.5 standards. So how does our local air quality planning work fit within the national framework? So at the very top of this table, Congress established the Clean Air Act, and from that, they established the different criteria pollutants that we need to set up attainment plans for. They established the attainment deadlines and all the requirements. A step below that, the EPA, they are the agency that actually sets the threshold, the concentration of each of the criteria pollutants. They put out the implementation rules and the specific requirements for attainment planning. And then the next step below, the states across the nation and local districts put together the local attainment plan, the modeling, the strategy. What is the gap between where emissions are going, how much further we need to go to be able to attain the different criteria pollutant standards. And that could be a combination of regulations, incentive programs, permitting, compliance. A lot of different efforts go into that. And this is all very important that we work through all of this, because if there are delays in any of this, it can cause a lot of problems and headaches. Of course, one of those is a delayed benefit of public health. The longer we take to attain an air quality standard, the longer it's going to take to get those public health benefits. So that's the first issue that comes up. There are permitting barriers that can pop up if we're unable to attain these standards by the deadlines, or where we're not getting our planning documents submitted. There could be a loss of federal highway funds, estimated at $4.6 billion, jobs lost throughout the region. And ultimately, there could be a federal takeover of our region for air quality planning, where the EPA can then step in and bring in their own strategy, their own regulations, and set that up for the region without the state or the local district having involvement in that. So these are certainly things we want to avoid, and doing good planning work and strategy development, we can avoid these issues. So where are we in relation to all of the criteria air pollutants? On the right-hand side is a graphic there showing many of the pollutants that we're fully in attainment of: lead, SO2, NO2, CO, PM10. And then for ozone and PM 2.5, we have attained some of the standards within those pollutants, but there are still a handful that we're still working towards and making progress. So they're colored a little bit yellow and green there, showing we need a little bit more progress. But we are making progress. We've attained a couple of PM 2.5 standards the last few years. We're making progress towards another one. We're making progress towards another of the ozone standards. And as we cross through these thresholds, we then put together what's called a maintenance plan, which is our strategy to continue to have the region continue to stay in attainment of those standards going forward. And so the work that we've done in all of our attainment plans to make this progress, it's multifaceted. On the left-hand side, displaying some of the work that we've done through both our stringent rule platform, through both stationary sources and mobile sources. Between us and CARB's work, it's the most stringent set of regulations in the nation. We also have a very strong incentive program, which you're aware of, and about $7.6 billion have been invested in this between both public and private over the last several decades. And this also comes along with strong stakeholder partnerships with local industries, agriculture, residents, public agencies. And this would not work without those strong partnerships where we want to go through the strategy and develop it, get those emissions reductions. Without their buy-in and support, it's just not going to work. But thankfully, we've been able to do that together, work really well together, where we've seen giant and significant emissions reductions that's shown on that chart on the right-hand side, showing a massive reduction from the last 45 years from where we used to be to where we are now. And that's really helped us make progress towards improving all of the concentrations of the criteria pollutants for ozone, for PM2.5. And to keep making progress, we need to have even more emissions reductions to help us cross the threshold for the remaining standards. And just to give you an idea of where we used to be to where we are now, this is the annual average PM2.5 design value. So on the left-hand side is where we used to be 25 years ago, where our average for the valley was nearly 25 micrograms. And then through the year 2025, our largest number is now at 13.7. So almost cut it in half over this time period. And that's a big deal for an annual average. This isn't just a peak number. This is PM2.5 averaged across the entire year. And so to drop it from 25 down to 13 to 14, that's a significant change. And you can see that we're well in attainment of that 1997 standard, and we're getting closer to crossing that next threshold for the 2012 standard. And then for the 24-hour average design value, this is, instead of averaged over the entire year, this is just for a one-day average. So this more focuses on a peak concentration for the year. And you can see in the past, that number used to be about 104 micrograms back 20 years ago. And now going forward in time to the year 2025, the highest value we now have seen is 42 micrograms, which is a significant change where we're not seeing those huge peaks of PM2.5 like we saw a long time ago. It's taking more and more strong meteorology and issues to get us to a higher number. And even then, under those really extreme circumstances, we're just not seeing those peak numbers that we used to see. And we're getting very close to attaining that next standard, the 2006 standard of 35 micrograms. And then finally, for ozone, similar story. If you go back in time, our highest numbers used to be about 125 parts per billion for the region. And through the year 2025, our highest design value number was 87 parts per billion, which was a record low for the area. So we're continuing to progress here. We're getting closer to crossing the threshold for that first 8-hour ozone standard. And then we'll continue to march forward and make progress towards the other standards. And so at this point, I'm going to pass it to Tim to give us an update on the recent planning actions and upcoming work over the coming months.
Great. Thank you, John. Madam Chair, members of the committee, again, Tim Franquist, Director of Air Quality Planning. I think is where the screen was supposed to drop out to the black box. So I'll give the update on the 2015 portion. So as you probably recall, the 2022 ozone plan for the 2015 standard was adopted by this board in December of 2022. That included significant stationary source and mobile source reductions to attain by the 2037. This plan, as we've discussed before, was impacted by the withdrawn and disapproved CARB mobile source measures, and it resulted in a shortfall. And I'll talk a little bit in more detail in just a moment there. This plan also had a recent lawsuit in 2024 filed against EPA that required action for this plan. Originally, the consent decree was requiring action by July. I think it was very favorable to give some more time for these things to be worked out. That consent decree was then negotiated to January 15th of 2027. So still very much a quick turnaround, but did give some pretty crucial time for CARB to work out some of those details. To that end, in July 23rd, 2026, CARB did approve the 2026 extreme ozone plan for the 2015 standard. We've talked a lot about the black box. There was a allocation to what's referred to as the 182E5. This for emission reductions to be fulfilled at a later date. So I brought some numbers here because we've been talking really kind of hypothetically about that, but I can kind of break that down now that we have the plan out there. So and there's a lot of discussion on that. I think it's really important for us to put some numbers on it. So the total emission reductions for the plan is still 159 tons per day. 85% of that plan is still with existing already adopted rules and plans in place. There are some additional commitments, but again, these are things that were already being discussed. So vast majority of that plan are implemented programs that are bringing us emission reductions in the today. The black box itself is about 24 tons per day and it represents about 15% of the overall plan. So not insignificant, but a lot less significant than the measures that are already in place that are already bringing us emission results. So again, there's been a lot of discussion about that. And I think it was good now that we have a plan in place that we can start actually talking about some numbers. I think it's also important to note that the executive director was given the authorization by the CARB board to do some level of negotiation on commitments and a black box. Again, I think we're pretty much going to see these numbers there. But again, just in case we do come back and there's any shifting, that's likely as a result of those negotiations. Moving on to the 2012 annual PM 2.5. Again, as you probably recall, in the 2024 PM 2.5 plan was adopted by this board on June 20th of 2024. Again, a very comprehensive control strategy in that plan as well. That did also contain the 5-year extension that we've discussed. The good news, and I think this came up at the last board meeting, but I'll just restate it, is the EPA did propose the approval of the 5-year extension. Again, it's a very critical timeframe for us to continue to look at air quality trends and see if we do need to work on anything different. The reason I say that here is we could see is this plan was also impacted by the waivers, what is being referred to as the CRA1. Congress did also receive, now is referred to CRA2. So when we say as needed, we'll have to see if the Congress does go forward with that CRA and if there's any additional impacts there. So just a placeholder in case there are any impacts to that plan. There is litigation on this plan as well for EPA to take action. That's still pending. We don't know what the consent decree will state in terms of when EPA has to take action. We do expect it to be somewhat of a quick turnaround, but again, we'll provide an update when we find out what the actual decision date there is. All right, turning to the 2006 24-hour PM 2.5 standard. Again, we had submitted in 2018 a plan that covered multiple different standards, included the 2006 standard. In this plan, we also had a 5-year extension that the EPA did grant later on in just this year. The EPA stated they had erred in providing that extension based on a CARB aggregate commitment that did not have funding. So they reverted that back. There was a lot of time that happened between that decision and ultimately this decision where the 5-year extension was actually removed and the attainment date was actually reverted back to 2019. As also part of that, the EPA said that we did not attain the standard, obviously in 2019, and did a failure of fighting to attain. That is requiring a formal plan. This is what we refer to as a 5% plan. Formal term is the 189D plan. As we discussed, this is a plan that requires a 5% reduction in emissions. For us, it's going to be usually NOx and direct PM 2.5. We'll have to do that every year until we attain the standard. That has to be done at least in 5 years. You can go up to 10 years with that. So we're looking at that right now. And we have 1 year to put that plan in. So the plan will be due in June of 2027. As we discussed last time, this did trigger the contingency measures along with that. And jump right into that. So just kind of an update, or excuse me, just reiterate there. It is going to trigger the district's open areas and fugitive dust rule. So this is 8051. You can see there the triggering event and just the level impacts. We are working on an outreach plan now to just let the impacted folks know what this is. It's a little bit different constituency on like a stationary source. We have direct knowledge of exactly who these folks are. This one's a little different because we have to kind of find out who the landowners are. So we want to make a really robust outreach, but it's a little less of just a traditional shoot out an email or call up a company. The second piece here, as we discussed, this will also trigger the removal of the hotspots. So everybody will be on the same contingency triggers for our open burn rules. So that's 4901. And then I'll just kind of quickly go through the CARB smog check because this can be a little confusing. So we're currently under an 8-year exemption. So vehicles 8 years and older or newer, excuse me, are exempted from the smog check. When we didn't attain the 1997 ozone standard, that actually triggered that 7-year model exemption. So just a nuance there that's actually related more to the ozone standard. And then because we didn't attain the 2006 standard, that's going to trigger yet another smog check, and that's going to reduce the exemption to 6 years. And you can see that the timeframes there. The 7-year trigger will happen in 2027, and we just recently learned that the 6-year trigger will happen in 2028. And then just in terms of the 5% plan, this is a new plan, so it is a full plan that has all the elements of a non-attainment area plan. So that'll be the attainment demonstration, reasonable further progress, contingency measures, control measures, precursor demonstration, and what's referred to as a back analysis for controls, and of course, an emissions inventory. In terms of public process, we're in the process of planning that out. This is of course, joint effort with CARB. So we're discussing, how we best socialize this plan and the elements of the plan. But the public process, generally will look like this. We'll be looking at the emissions inventory, back analysis, attainment demonstration, and 5% demonstration in the first portion. The second portion will be, of course, the 30-day public comment period, and bringing that to the board for adoption. Once that happens, then again, we'll transmit that to CARB, and CARB transmits that to the EPA. That process is ongoing now, so that's a current process, and we should wrap that up here in summer of 2027. Turning to our contingency measure plan and commitments there, the 2024 ozone contingency measure plan that covered both the 2008 and 2015 ozone standards was adopted by the board in April of 2024. The EPA just recently conditionally approved the 2008 ozone portion. They haven't acted on the 2015, so that is still out there, but we do have conditional approval on that portion of the plan. A conditional approval, what that requires us is to submit a plan within 1 year. So it does give us a pretty short runway. The good thing here is we've done a lot of research and analysis and development in the meantime while this was going on. So I think we're in a pretty good shape to hit this time frame. What you can see here is we've committed to 5 rules for this plan. And again, we have to adopt that by 1 year from today. Our first workshop is scheduled for September 3rd. So again, we're already working on the public process here, and that will be available both here in Fresno and then in the regional offices and virtually. The first workshop will be September 3rd. Correct. Yeah. And there's here some additional timelines as we kind of look through. I think we put ozone there, but so we're just kind of looking at, we had a scoping meeting actually in 2024. The workshop, as we said, will be in September 23rd. In the fourth quarter, we look to be doing the September 3rd. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, absolutely. Yep. Sorry. Thank you. September 3rd will be the first workshop, and we'll go through the development timeline, specific rule, and just obtain public feedback at that point. In the fourth quarter of 2026, we're looking to post the rule for, again, public comment is a proposed final rule. And then either the first quarter of 2027, we look to bring it to the board for adoption. And then just kind of jumping into a recent court case, so I'm going to kind of go through lots of dates and lots of kind of minutiae here, and we're certainly happy to answer any questions. Just kind of tee this up here. On May 18th, 2023, the district board did adopt the PM 2.5 for contingency measure SIP to address contingency measure requirements for, this was multiple standards, 1997, 2006, and the 2012 PM 2.5 standard. On October 4th, 2024, EPA took final action on that plan to approve both the district's 4901 Woodbury rule and the 8051 open areas rule. On December 3rd, 2024, the EPA was challenged on that approval. And then on August 5th, 2026, so just recently, we did get a ruling by the courts that stated that the EPA could not consider feasibility in determination of those contingency measures. So this is really a national case. This impacts a lot of folks. So still many dominoes that need to fall here. We'll keep the board updated on any legal proceedings that come out of that, but it's a relatively significant issue. Turning to our metal shredding rule, this is a rule required by AB 2851, and this requires metal shredding facilities to conduct fence line monitoring of air quality for specific metals. By July 1st, 2027, air districts in consultation with Department of Toxic Substances and Office of Environmental Health and Hazardous Assessment, OEA, are required to adopt notification thresholds for the 4 metals listed here: cadmium, lead, nickel, and zinc. It also requires a community notification procedure for exceedances of that notification standard, and then reporting to the district and local public health departments. This will be new district rule 4461, metal shredding facility fence lines, and it's being developed through a public process to implement these requirements.
Just real quick, Tim, just to slow it down just a little bit here, for this particular rule, a metal shredding facility under, by definition, a certain kind of metal recycling facility. I think there's two that are in the valley that are subject to the rule, just to give you a little bit of this one in the Stockton area and one in the Bakersfield area.
Great. And just in terms of public health or public process, we'll begin the public scoping meeting. We had our first public scoping meeting in June. OEA is required to develop these thresholds by January 1st. That's obviously a very critical element of that, but we are putting the rule together. We can put that as a placeholder. We'll hold another workshop in the first quarter of 2027, hold a public hearing in the second quarter of 2027, with the anticipated adoption by January 1st of 2027, which is required by AB 2051. And then we'll move into the implementation process there. And what that implementation process will look like is we'll obtain draft monitoring plans, we'll do an internal review, and then we'll start up those networks. And then lastly, turning just to our district rules pending current action. I think this is kind of a really important end to this. And a lot of the work we've been doing, a lot of work that you've been hearing discussed today, a lot of those rules have been sitting with the EPA for 3 to 4 years. And so it's really critical that we continue to push at all levels to get the EPA to act on these. Obviously, these rules are based on a lot of data analysis, a lot of meteorology that gets stale or even outdated over time. And so a lot of these rules sit with the EPA, the longer we, the bigger risk that you run that those analyses are no longer valid for approval. So just again, a list here, we did get the LDAR rules, 3 of those approved just recently, but we do still have a pretty laundry list here. And again, we'll be working on others that we do. We just want to encourage the EPA to work quickly on. With that concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Dr. Pacheco-Warren.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all the staff for this very important and comprehensive update. I think before I ask my question, I think it's important to note that these SIP plans are not the only thing, as we just heard with the legislative update, right? That there are so many things that we are doing on the policy end that are very important, that even though these lawsuits put our plans in pause or in pivot mode, we continue to strive to clean the air every single day and continue to get, through our incentive programs, those very real reductions, whether or not we can show them in these plans, they are real and they're making an impact. And so I think we can't lose the policy aspect of what we're doing, and also that these lawsuits, while the intention is good, unfortunately are delaying some of what we want to implement, and that's very frustrating as a board member who spent time on these as well, and not frustrating for me and my ego, frustrating for the residents who are we can't act on these plans. And so that's really frustrating. Now, I will say, and I'll hold my comments on the lawyers that make a lot of money on. So one of the questions that I have, obviously there's a lot of movement on the contingency measures. And so I'm just trying to understand, because a couple of things are really overlapping here. These court decisions and then these, what we're going to need to do with the 5% plan. And so if you can just help me kind of understand how we are going to be navigating what we're putting into this 5% plan at the same time as we're waiting with these, is the strategy that we're going to come up with new contingency measures, and, just trying to get a sense of how we're navigating that.
Yeah, I think we can, I can, through the chair, just offer some thoughts, and Tim and our Shiraz can also add additional if I miss any key portions of the response here. But I want to go back to the first part of what you said and reiterate or amplify the the point around, and that, because it partially answered your question, that, you know, there are commitments that the board has made, and we're moving forward with those as best as we can, you know, even when, you know, there's issues that come up, whether it's through litigation or delay is another ongoing issue that we have from EPA, for example, on action. But we do move forward, you know, so for example, with the recent ruling from the Ninth Circuit on contingency, it was without vacatur, so they did not vacate the, you know, without getting into too much of the legal weeds of that. But, you know, there are measures that are in place, you know, there does need to be ultimately a solution at the end. But, you know, in the ozone side of the contingency, which is where for example, the coatings rules that Tim talked about earlier, you know, that is still in place. There's new litigation on that as well. That is early in its stages against EPA on that, you know, but, you know, the approval stands, the commitment stand, and the process is ongoing to put into place those measures. And you also heard earlier the ones that were recently triggered, you know, with the 2006 attainment trigger, you know, there are measures like this, whether the carbs smog measure or the residential wood burning one, that we're actually, next month, you'll hear more information about the upcoming winter and some of the transitions that are happening partially due to the contingency there. So that's basically a long way of saying that we're trying to walk and chew gum at the same time in terms of moving forward with the measures, and especially those that remain, you know, under some form of approval, because a lot of these measures aren't triggered unless there is an approval from EPA, and there is approval in place for a number of these different packages. We all worked very hard, you know, CARB actually nationally worked really hard with EPA to put that into place and received approvals first in the country for that. But at the same time, there are some legal realities that will start to play out, and I think may have some impact on some of these, depending on, you know, what happens, you know, with the Ninth Circuit and with the ozone side of it. You know, PM was sort of first on that, ozone's next. So you know, we're trying to navigate basically some pretty choppy waters there. But with going back to your first point, trying to continue just progressing, you know, with measures where we can, you know, as committed to by the board in these different packages that were adopted by both our board and also the CARB in the case of their measures.
And I think for our newer board members, it's important to note that we kind of always knew that the contingency measure issue would be a rough one, because we were sort of almost first out the gate on these in the nation. And so it was expected, unfortunately. So going back into the 5% plan, I have a couple questions on that piece. So one, in terms of the emissions inventory that's going into that, is the timeline going to be that the new modeling, the latest modeling is going into that one as well?
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes, that there is quite a bit of work going on by CARB. We're supporting that work to make some, I think, key updates to the emissions inventory in areas where there's some opportunity for making those updates. I think that there's an interest in looking at the modeling again as well, especially in light of, you know, some of those changes that would be made. Yeah, I think there's also new meteorology, there's new trends, you know, things like that can be taken into account. So that is something that's, you know, over the next several months, you know, hopefully there's more to share on that. I think right now, you know, it's still kind of ongoing and not a whole lot to share, but as that information becomes available, you know, I think what Tim was alluding to was, you know, in the public process is having an opportunity to talk about, you know, any new information and really just see, you know, with from an updated perspective, you know, where we are, you know, with that. You know, I think on the good news part of that is that, you know, despite, you know, some of the challenges that we've seen with some of the waivers, and, you know, there's actually been some pretty tremendous work going on, you know, both here locally, obviously, you know, you heard a lot today, for example, about the ag efforts and significant reductions happening from the open burn phase out and from equipment transitions. There is actually going to be quite a bit to point to in terms of emission reductions, kind of year over year, that will benefit that 5% plan. But then the question becomes, you know, where are we after we collectively with CARB, you know, once these different inventories are updated? And there's been some communication already. There's been a bit of that work already publicly, you know, CARB has shared and taken input on some of those categories already. And that's going to be just more of that to come as that work continues.
Great. And is there going to be a public process for this 5% plan? And what does that look like?
Yes, I think that's still to be determined. CARB obviously will play a major lead role in that, given the significance of the transition on the mobile source strategy. I think that's probably where there's going to be a lot of opportunity for more clarity on sort of what's to come, in those spaces. And then with hopefully a large farmer allocation, not just this year, but maybe in future years, we can point to some of those even more new things like that. But to answer your question, that is something that, as the slide I think indicated, there would be a public process with workshops and with opportunities for discussion on that as it works its way, locally, and then ultimately to the CARB board and the joint workshops with CARB.
Yeah, and my final question is, I noticed in our, kind of like monthly report on year to date, that, on some of the categories, we're having a little bit more, in terms of the monitoring of the ozone and some of the unhealthy days and all that. We're having a little bit more trouble this year than we have in past years. And I just wanted to get a sense from you all, and maybe there's a question for John. Is it the wildfires that are contributing to that? Is it, some of them are not too much of a difference, but some of them I've seen that are quite different from last year.
So let me just say one quick thing. You can turn your mic back on because I want you to jump in, John, as well, especially if I say something. But yeah, I think I'll state a high level, which is to say that air quality across different pollutants is quite complex. And so I think the trends, and we will report out on the trends as we get, closer to the end of the ozone season, for example, so we can talk more completely about ozone. And then I think for PM, it's always your book ended. You get the first quarter winter for early in the year, and then you have the fourth quarter of this year, which is the second part of our. So it's like two halves of the winters that kind of make up the annual, sort of PM picture. And I think there's a couple of different things going on. I think you're going to see some improvements in some of the trends. You're going to see maybe a little bit of a setback, and part of it's still TBD, right? The rest of the ozone season is not over yet. And I think the winter is also, for example, the annual average for PM, all you have is the first quarter so far. And then we'll see what happens the fourth quarter of this year. And then that becomes, very, very important to see where the overall kind of average lands. So I think overall, yeah, you're right that we did see some challenges early in, I think the winter earlier this year. There were a couple of periods that were a little bit challenging. And then for ozone, actually it's, but I just don't want to call it just yet, right? But I think overall it's looking actually fairly good on the ozone. We've had a couple of, even with, it felt like ages of 100, almost 10-degree weather conditions that normally you would have seen all kinds of issues with the 1-hour ozone, 8-hour ozone. We actually, saw under the same conditions, much less values than we would have seen just 5-10 years ago. And so I think that overall, I think, especially when you correct for meteorology and then some of the things that we saw this year, and you're right, and there has been a little bit of ubiquitous amount of precursor emission from some of the surrounding fires. No fire in particular, like smoked us out to a level that you might have seen like back east. But there were some challenges during the summer season. And even with that, not as bad as we would have seen before. So that's a long way of saying that, the trends need to be kind of carefully examined, before we can kind of say, whether overall it's one way or the other. And John, I don't know if you have anything further to add to that.
Yeah, no, you said it, you covered it. But yeah, like you said, it's all year to date, those metrics that we show. And so as the year goes on, we get a better feel for how this year really stacks up against previous years. And some of the highest ozone that we've seen this summer so far, we did have some wildfire smoke on those days. So we have a level of confidence that the wildfire emissions did impact some of our highest ozone so far this year. But yeah, we'll see how it goes the next few months.
Yep, and as your the board's walking ozone monitor, I agree that the summer, the high temperatures, we were able to navigate that better than we have in other years. So thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, staff again, and Tim for the report. I know that as the valley continues to reduce NOx and PM at an extraordinary rate in comparison to where we're at before, that also has measurable health benefits to our community. So, and this state implementation plan, as we continue, can we integrate more measurable data that connects with that? Meaning, how many hospital visits does that reduce? How many less asthma centers are being produced? Measurable data so that we can continue to promote this in a very positive way. I think there's a lot of good efforts being done. I've heard all the programs, all the incentives that are out there. But as a public health agency, what does that do to integrate that health data? I think our story becomes even stronger when we can communicate that and put those things together. So just thought I'd throw that out there. You guys are doing a great job. So thank you again. Appreciate you.
All right, not seeing any more questions from the board. I will open this up for public comment.
Are there any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
So do you have any public comments?
No comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? Seeing none, we do have one online, Christine Zimmerman.
Hi, Christine.
Governing board members and Air District staff, Christine Zimmerman with Western States Petroleum Association. Not a question so much as a comment to thank staff for today's presentation. Was putting together a briefing this week for some folks on where we are with these plans and just the reason I want to compliment staff is I do this sort of thing for a living, and this whole process, these various plans and how they're impacted and what happens with the various lawsuits and what happens with the various approvals is such a complex issue. And so it was both timely and deeply appreciated by me that staff put this presentation together today. And I just want to compliment them and point out to the board what a wonderful job they're doing on a very complex issue. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments.
No other public comments.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Is that it? We're done? All right, item 13. This is an update on the district's public education campaigns.
Good afternoon. I'm going to be going, and if the presentation works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We're all going to be just fine.
This morning, though, I have to.
Oh,
there it went.
thank you.
See, you just,
It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
that's why.
All right. Periodically, we like to come to your board with a little general update on what we're doing in the outreach sector. You hear a lot on an ongoing basis about outreach on certain programs, on certain campaigns. This is a bit of a broader look at kind of what we've been up to this summer. Piggybacks exactly on what Dr. Pacheco Warner said. We do see historically, less so now this year, but some poor air quality during this time of the year. Our entire public education and outreach strategy is built on 3 principles that were approved by your board. The first is to empower and inform the public to protect themselves during those episodes of poor air quality like wildfire smoke by providing them timely air quality information and comprehensive information on health effects of air pollution. I definitely heard the comment about having some more information on the sensitive receptors. I think that's a great idea. Number 2, encourage and enlist the public to support clean air efforts and take actions to improve air quality and public health. That's taking advantage of our grant programs and then just doing those things in your everyday life that you're capable of that will help improve air quality. And number 3 is to provide information about Valley efforts to reduce air pollution, the measurable, insignificant achievements that have been made, and the measurable and unfortunately still significant challenges that remain. Over the last couple of months, we've been working on our summertime outreach campaign. We've gotten it already and really launched it just a few weeks ago. It includes some significant back to school outreach through our Healthier Schools program. We've been out at schools on a regular basis. If they invite us to PTA meetings, to back to school nights, and we think it's something where we can actually connect with people and talk to them, we like to go. I will tell you for some of them, we've learned that it's a little bit of pure chaos. We don't really get to chat with people. So we're a little picky on the events that we go to, but we are out in schools on a daily basis, pretty much up and down the valley. I have someone way up in the north headed up to Stockton today. Wildfire response and land management, you've heard a ton about that earlier this morning from Heather, so I won't go into it. We do a lot of media interviews, community events, and post a lot of organic social media. This is the free social media. It's not paid. It's where folks get kind of the really timely information. Yesterday, we posted about the fire happening down in Alpa. That's the stuff that's happening kind of really timely based on current conditions. We update the website on a regular basis. And then over the last few weeks and months, we've done some enhanced grant outreach specifically to some of the programs that were mentioned this morning, Drive Clean in the San Joaquin, the lawn care programs that are out there, and a few others, just to remind public that we have funding and tools that are available for you. And then we've helped Mark and his team with some fun advocacy efforts. Really, we're just making sure that Mark and everything he's doing is looking professional and pretty and good and all that type of thing. I do want to highlight something that is pretty new. We did a little test run with last year's annual report, and we got it up and running about a month before the new annual report came out. This year, we've been much timelier. We're really highlighting the annual report to the community. This award-winning bilingual report you all weigh in heavily on. It is a great tool. We have launched now, and as you know, it's meaty. It's thick. It's a big document, and it's great for some people, but it might be a little intimidating for other folks. So we have launched the bilingual interactive digital story map. A story map is a web-based tool that allows you to kind of play around with images and graphics and see things a little bit differently. For those that might be watching at home, or if you really want to get ahead of the presentation, you can use one of our QR codes and go straight to the interactive digital story map. We're working at making sure that while the printed annual report is distributed to Valley policymakers, community partners, yes, it does work. We did check before we put it on the presentation. That was Heather reminding me, make sure those actually work before you put them up. We send out those hard copies, as you're aware, but then we've also been doing a lot of emailing and social media posting and putting this in our Valley Air newsletter and our Healthier Living School newsletter, so that folks that maybe don't want to read a 60-page document can have this kind of fun, interactive, online, easy to pull up on your cell phone tool that walks you through some of the things that we've been doing. It really reinforces that measurable air quality progress while highlighting, as I mentioned, that there's still a lot of work to do. We also have our smaller, I say smaller because our big advertising campaign is during the winter when we have our PM challenges. We have a smaller paid advertising campaign that we just launched. It's a bilingual initiative, and it's featuring our student artwork. That's that artwork that you all saw back in December, kids calendar artwork. And what we've done is that we've animated some of those images. We've made them kind of fun, there's one where a dog catches a Frisbee. And we've primarily put them out on social media on a variety of different platforms. They're running from August 10th through the 30th across all 8 Valley counties. The strategy is really geared to reach audience across multiple platforms. We do some geographic and demographic targeting to reach certain audiences, which I'll talk about in a minute. We're looking at engaging schools, government agency, facility managers, and community leaders, in addition to just engaging key members of the public. And then because we felt we needed a little bit more of a Spanish amplification, especially in the Central and Southern Valley, we're doing some programming on Univision's Noticias. Someone can correct me. Univision Noticias. It's basically an evening news program. So we've got some great messaging and a crawler that's playing on that in both media markets of Fresno and Bakersfield. So these are our programs, and we're going to see these may or may not animate. No, they're not going to animate, and that's just fine. You can go online and see them get animated. Oh,
Wow.
Seth is good.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. It's telling people to download the Valley Air app, and then some additional messaging is really just to pay attention to air quality. The next one, Seth, any chance? This one, look at the little lawnmower going across. This one is so that you can go and take advantage of our lawnmower program and get rebates. Can you go to the next slide? fantastic. Be wildfire smoke ready. So clean that air conditioner. Look at him cleaning his little air conditioner. This one takes you to our wildfire webpage. And then this is my favorite one. Look at that Frisbee is about to be caught by the dog. Oh, avoid idling when possible. That's
like
really,
Gracie.
I'll talk a little bit more about how we're targeting some of these. But we also like to say when possible. Goodness, I thought yesterday I could have fried an egg in my car. It was hot. Yesterday afternoon would not have been a day when we're out there saying, hey, turn off your car at 3 o'clock when you're picking up your kids. But yesterday morning, yeah, when I was walking my dogs, it was nice yesterday morning. That's a time when possibly you could. Seth, if we can go to the next slide. Become a healthier school. Look, just walk to school or bike or ride your roller skates or let your dog come along on a skateboard. This one is one of our bilingual ones, although I will say on all of them, depending on your settings on your social media, you may be seeing the actual captions in Spanish for some of them. So these are 3 messages this summer. And let me just explain a little bit how this works. We're really focusing more on kind of a new media funnel-based strategies that moves audiences from awareness to engagement to action. So we want audiences to possibly see these messages multiple times. So an example that I'll give you is that a resident might see that little quiet machine lawnmower. It's a zip and cross little quiet machine lawnmower. And then when they're scrolling social media. And then when they decide that they're going to go and maybe watch a YouTube video, we're going to feed them one of our commercials, our Spanish or English commercials that promote the lawnmower program. And then hopefully they're going to click either from this video or from that commercial into our portal to apply for the lawnmower program. And we now have a way through technology to kind of track whether or not people are making that connection. So it really allows us to, one, give people multiple messages in multiple ways and build upon an interest maybe they've already shown in one of our programs, and then also get them to actually take an action. And in this case, that action would be to learn more by going to our website for our grant program to learn about our lawnmower rebate. It really maximizes our resources while providing audiences that information that we feel is relevant. I will tell you that the campaign's just been out for a little bit. Yep, Heather taking photos for social media. But anecdotally, we're seeing huge kind of organic sharing or liking or people positively responding to our Kids Care About Clean Air campaign. So upcoming campaigns, we're going to build upon our award-winning education and outreach program. We really want to focus on that nexus between let's pat ourselves on the back. We've had a lot of success, and let's really understand we still have a lot of challenges in front of us, as was just mentioned in the previous presentation. We want folks to understand, both residents and businesses and public agencies and our nonprofit partners, that they can help be part of the solution, and there might even be a grant program for them. We want to make sure that the strategies, the partnerships, the investments are all front and center, especially helps us when we go to the state and federal government and say we need more money. Let us show you how well it worked. We're constantly looking to evaluate and enhance our outreach, really change based on public perception. And also, we've been doing a lot of looking at best practices. What are the best practices in outreach? What's the best way to spend our money? Always looking for ways to expand awareness and engagement. I always get great ideas from you, so I'm ready for the comments. And then really, we've begun to put some thought into the upcoming winter residential wood smoke reduction strategy. Have an initial kind of 3 focus areas. One is to let folks know about the forecast-driven reductions in wood burning that we're going to need to see between November and the end of February. We have that strong incentive program, and folks need to understand why this program's in place. We're not just telling people to reduce their wood burning because we want to. It has a direct nexus between public health and air quality in the valley. With that, we're going to go just real quick to the website, I believe. And I'm going to show you, I'm just going to have Seth scroll because I don't have scroll ability. Maybe not. No, we're not. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I encourage you guys to click on the QR code and go to the website so that you can putz around with our interactive annual report. It's really cool. The one that I think is the best is if you go to our ozone map, that's maybe about 4 or 5 scrolls down, you'll see a map of the valley and you'll see what we call those heat maps. The first one actually has a lot of red, and then it will go to a little less red, and then a little bit more yellow. And it does that seamlessly over time. It's not 5 different photos. It's this transition over time. So I encourage you to check out our interactive digital story map. You'll probably see it. We're pushing a lot of emails and information out. But with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Do we have any questions for Jamie? Yes? Dr. Pacheco Warner, you do?
Yes.
All right.
Sorry. Thank you. I know that, this is so exciting, all the things that you're doing and leveraging the technology. I have definitely seen some of those animated ones. So it's really fun to see that. In terms of the public education on the annual report, I know that we had talked about when it came out, thinking about how those reports are being engaged with our educational partners. And so I was just wondering if there have been any follow-up or plans in the future around how to help maybe some of like the high schools, I think is what Board Member Rodriguez had talked about, but certainly opportunities at the higher education level, I think, too.
No, yeah, I think Jamie just told me we have a plan on the side here, but which I know about, which is what I'd like to basically just a comment I want to make in response is it's a great question and point, because one of the things that Jamie and her team have been working on, and she can elaborate on this more, is this great product, right? So you've got the report itself, you've got the story map, which is just another creative way to make it, even more accessible. It's sort of in a fun way. But then you got all this technology and this work that's going on to come up with reportable and tangible outcomes, right? And so one of the key outcomes that we were just discussing was actually quantifying, interest in the report itself, right? Across different outreach components. One of those being, what you just described, is the educational system and integrating, sort of this report kind of in our work with Healthier Living Schools and with sort of like some of the other kind of related pieces. So I know that work is ongoing, and you can elaborate some more on that, Jimmy.
Yeah, we actually discussed this. Let me back up for a second. We are currently working on a huge kind of enhancement to our schools program in general, and that will be coming. It's not quite fully baked, but hopefully it will be in the next few months, and it will come to you. Samir, we keep teasing it with Samir, but he hasn't even seen it. And it has a variety of different elements. But one of the things that we've already talked about, school for a lot of the Valley either just got back into session today or last week, or this week or last week. So parents, teachers, administrators are a little frazzled right now. So we have scheduled for our next big push to schools and our big newsletter that we then follow up with some direct outreach to be almost entirely about the digital story map, and hoping to then use it as, we would love if you somehow use this as a curriculum piece. And we would love to talk to you about what that might look like. And maybe with the enhanced schools program, maybe there's even a little mini grant or something that would help you do that. So, so we are definitely thinking about that and how we can do it. I will tease it a little. Maybe, do you want to talk about the Fresno State Transportation Institute partnership that we're working on as well?
That's great. Yeah.
So it's very relevant, I think.
Yes.
to the
So the other thing is that we're working with the Fresno State Transportation Institute. They're beginning to publish a regular magazine. I don't remember how often they're going to do it, but they've reached out to us to be at the table with that. And their first issue, which I believe is going to come out next month, will include a big article that we've been involved in and just strengthening that partnership with the hopes of it being a little bit of a model that we can then replicate at some of the other higher institutions throughout the valley.
Thank you, and copy on the parent frazzled part.
Okay, I don't see any other requests to speak. So do we have any public comment on this item?
Okay. Modesto, do you have any public comment?
No public comment in Modesto.
Thank you, Fresno. Are there any members of the public here? Seeing none. Bakersfield, do you have any public comments?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. And no online comments.
Thank you.
Okay. That was an information item. Thank you very much. Okay, item 14 is a verbal report on the California Air Resources Board activities.
Yeah, a couple of things. I think that it's important to note that the CAR board does have some ongoing discussions on the SIP as well, and I think more importantly, really, I think these next few months are really critical in terms of continuing to understand where the opportunities are in terms of the emissions reductions, and certainly a priority for me is how incentives do play a part in that as well. I also want to note that one of the bigger rulemakings that we have this for the remaining of the year is around the carbon capture, removal, and utilization and storage program, which some people might know it as like SB 905. Is that the correct one? Okay, and so I'm like totally frazzled now on like the so many SBs and ABs in the last 2 weeks. Oh my gosh. And so we do have a couple of in-person sessions around that. There will be an informational hearing at CARB as well, where board members will get a chance to listen in and comment, and as well as hear the public comment on that as well. I mention it because there are huge implications in terms of like where the projects would be sited. The San Joaquin Valley really stands to be a major part of that. So there is going to be one in Stockton on August 27th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. And that will be in the San Joaquin Delta College in the Upper Danner Hall, I believe it's called. And so again, and you can find that on the CARB page as well, but August 27th, 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the San Joaquin Delta College. And then, and board members, if you have questions on that, feel free to reach out to me. And there's also one in Bakersfield on Wednesday, September 2nd, 5:30 to 8 p.m. And that will be at 4 Points by Sheraton and Bakersfield. There will also be a virtual workshop for anyone that can't attend either of those sessions, and that will be on Tuesday, September 8th. And again, if you have questions around the link for that, feel free to reach out. And that is also in the evening, 5:30 to 8 p.m. on September 8th. So encourage engagement on that piece. And I think that will be it for today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, item 16 is governing board member comments. Do we have any board member comments? Waiting. Yep. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Lewis.
I have to figure out which button I'm supposed to push first. Well, this is more of a informational push that I'm going to read here. Annually, Chris White, who's the executive director of the San Joaquin River Exchange Contractors Water Authority, puts on a event for the California Agriculture Leadership Foundation. And tonight it will be class number 55. It's usually a 2-day event, a 2.5-day event. They tour all the water districts in the area that his exchange governs. And the topic this evening will be water at the crossroads. What can the future look like? And I'm sure our farmers are quite concerned about water and what the future looks like. Despite the fact that there's a prediction of an El Nino for next year, that doesn't mean that we're going to be out of the woods in regards to water. The panelists this evening are going to be Federico Barajas, who is the Executive Director of the San Luis Delta Water Authority, Kristen White, and she's the Program Manager of Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, and Canon Michael, who is the President of Bowles Farming and the direct descendant of and family member of cattle rancher and farmer mogul Henry Miller. So I'm putting this out there. I would hope that maybe Roger and Manuel would consider attending this event if you'd like to. I have a phone number for you to call to make arrangements for that. And I think it would be, it's a direct tie-in for our farmers, not just in regards to tractors and all that. This is, you know, just the whole concept of why farming is so important in our district. And so that's my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Supervisor Mendez?
You know, I just want to finish, you know, her deal. You know, that's good panel. Most of them are personal friends. Canon Michael's wife is also a descendant of Henry Miller. Just wanted to let you know about that. But they're like 5th or 6th cousins, so I think it's good. Anyway, you know, I just want to give because we're in comments, Mark Magalano. I mean, Mark, you've done a fantastic job. I'm proud of you, and I'm sure all of your family's proud of you. He comes from a great family. When he got that job, I told him, hey, the bar's way up here. I think you can get it. But, you know, you and Manuel and Roger almost have an impossible task, you know, and I want to use a quote. I think everybody here's seen, you know, Star Trek, The Next Generation. Sacramento's controlled by the Borg. And basically their comment is, you know, resistance is futile. You must become part of the collective. And we've got to continue to fight that. And thank you for everything you do.
I almost shed a tear with that first comment there with yours, buddy.
What's that?
I almost shed a tear.
Oh.
All right, do we have any other comments from board members? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our APCO
Thank you,
comments.
Madam Chair, and I will see, I've got a minute or less here before noon. Let me do, I could do a couple of quick updates. I will follow up via email. So you have this information in your inbox. A couple of grant programs are up and running. The Drive Clean and San Joaquin rebate program is funded again through the new budget. So it is up as of a few days ago. So if you have constituents who might benefit from that, please share that with them. There's also a grant program for fleets, whether municipal, private, for class 6 and 7 electric trucks, like the more the local kind of regional type trucks. There's a federal grant that we'd received for that. So it's actually up and running right now. There's funding available. So please share that as well for anybody who may be interested. And then just a reminder to the public and the board of the September board meeting. It's been moved up a week due to some significant conflicts coming up the regularly scheduled 3rd week. Just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that meeting schedule change that was approved earlier. So with that, turn it back, and I think it's yes about noon. So thank you.
You did it. Okay, that concludes our regular session. Madam Council, do we have a need for closed session today?
Yes, we do. We have a closed session with three items to address and consider on the closed session agenda. We need to call for public comment on those items.
Okay.
Okay, are there any public comments in Bakersfield on the closed session items?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Modesto, do you have any comments on this item?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Fresno, do we have any members of the public in our office? Seeing none and none online.
And will there need to be a report out?
There will be a report out. So we will move to closed session and we will adjourn out of closed session.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all. We will see you back, remember, on September 10th, a week earlier than usual. Thank you.